It's the London Lowdown.
Good evening and welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. It is me, your host Reece, presenting the London Lowdown. Tonight, we are going to get knuckled in. It is a debate. It is Chelsea versus Arsenal. Who is the biggest club? Or in my personal opinion, which club sucks most? Arsenal. But anyway, we are going to move on. Tonight is a civilised debate. Evan, I remember tonight it's all about civil. We have the banner, but tonight it is all about a debate. We're going to have fun, but we are going to definitively determine who is the biggest club in London. On my right, on the right-hand side, is Evan, and underneath me is William. How are you both this evening, gentlemen? How are you?
A1 now, Reece. I'm happy days. I'm ready to get into it. I'm excited. I'm looking forward now, but a bit nervous. I won't lie. William is he's going to be a tough opponent. No discredit to him. He's a knowledgeable man. He's a knowledgeable man. I won't underestimate him, but his club I'll underestimate big time.
He is clearly prepared. He is clearly prepared, judging by the tone of his voice, ladies and gentlemen. And William, how are you, sir?
I'm not too bad. A little bit sore in the arm, done a muscle the other day, but feeling good, feeling ready to go.
Excellent. And as you guys know, I am the moderator for this evening. I will be doing things a little bit differently, a little bit panache. But even so, there is one other thing. As you guys know, I seem to be a reminder that I may have ate some bonbons not too long ago on a show for the deadline day, and it's become a weekly armchair meme. I think it's the best. But tonight we've gone differently. Tonight we've gone with Sherbet Lemons, sponsored by me. So, are you ready, gentlemen?
Ready to rock.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate just for those that are watching in the live stream, please also hit the like button, share button, subscribe, and give us a follow on Sports Armchair on Twitter. We also have a Twitter page, Twitch page too, which you will find in the descriptions as well. So you'll find all that. Tonight is a civilised debate. We are going to determine the biggest team in London. As we reiterate one more time, there is a criteria that the gentlemen have been made aware of. I will come to that in a moment. The most important thing tonight is the following: they will obey my rules. They will behave, and we will still have banter. But when one person is talking, the other person will be on mute unless they wish to interfere and counteract a point. The criteria for tonight is history, the overall fan base, trophies, periods of dominance and success that include sustained success over a long period of time or even a short period, which is still included, and also impact on football. What sort of impact did they have? Chelsea, it's pretty obvious. We'll let Evan come to that very shortly. And for William, it's all about the style of football they employed for a numerous amount of years. It was also impressive to watch, unless you're a Man United fan who absolutely hated it. Peace. But anyway, we are going to start with history for your clubs. And I'm going to kindly ask if Mr. Fahey, can you kindly put yourself on mute, please? I will be coming to you second.
Fair enough. I like going second.
Well, to be fair, you also came second in the 2008 Champions League final, but that's another thing.
You had to wait until I was muted to say it, didn't you?
Obviously, do things my way. William. Overall, the Arsenal history, I'm going to allow it to you. What, in terms of the overall history of your club, what makes it far greater and makes your club overall bigger than Chelsea? What is it to you about the history that makes Arsenal bigger?
Fact is, if you look at our history, it's no doubt that we are the biggest team in London. Because if you look at Chelsea, their history majorly started once Abramovich came. Did they have success before that? Yes, not too much. They won one league, they won one FA Cup and 2 League Cups and a few other trophies. However, if you look at us, we won 13 leagues before that. We were the first ever team to win 10 league titles. We have the most amount of FA Cups and the most amount of Community Shields. Also, in terms of our history, since we have reached the top league in England, we have never been relegated. It's a fact that only, I think, Everton may be the only other team that can hold that. Every other team has been relegated at least once. So we've got that on our side. Now, it may be a bit dubious on how we got into the league, and I won't deny that. We kind of done a Chelsea and paid our way into the league. But but we've backed ourselves up. We talked the talk, and then we got there, and we've walked the walk. Also, throughout our history, we have had sustained periods of dominance that I will go into later that far surpass Chelsea's in terms of this debate, but that will be brought up later. And I just feel like our history is a lot more greater than Chelsea's. There are other ways that they will come up in the ranks, but history is one that just won't be defeated.
Absolutely. And I will stand that as a very excellent opening statement. Could you kindly put yourself on mute? No. Mr. Fahey, counter argument, please, sir.
Right. You see, the thing is, I knew coming in, and I said this in the group chat, Arsenal are all history. That's all Arsenal are history. Like, founded in 1886, say 20 years on Chelsea before they were even founded. Like, you have 5 of them titles were well before the war in the 30s. Do you know what I mean? There's no denying Arsenal have a history over Chelsea, but it comes to the term of, if we're talking about history, why aren't Tottenham here? Why isn't anyone representing Tottenham? Between the 50s, 60s, 70s, Tottenham were so-called a big club as well. They were winning stuff. That's history as well. So why isn't anyone talking about Tottenham in this situation? Do you know what I mean? History doesn't alone stand for big clubs. So it doesn't. A lot of clubs have history. Just because Chelsea was only coming to life in 2005 doesn't define its whole foundations of a club itself. So as far as I'm concerned, all Arsenal have is history. It's as simple as that.
I'm going to give you an extra 30 seconds per the agreed rule. Please continue.
Well, if you want to go, 7 of them league titles have come from before England have even won the World Cup since '66. After that, it's been spread out between then and now with what, 7 more? What was it, 13?
13.
Am I right in saying 13? Yeah, so like your history is before '66. Completely different style of football back then, completely different eras, all that. So if you're just based on history alone, bring Tottenham into the situation.
That is something that we can also stipulate. William, counterpoint to that.
You say that if you bring history into it, like, this is the debate part where it is all history. Just because that generation happened way before we were alive doesn't make it a worse style of play. Just because Pele was playing back in the 50s and 60s doesn't make him a worse player than the players nowadays. You look back at that time and say it's even more impressive that the fact that we had dominance back then and were able to continue and stay at the big level throughout our time and never reach a lower level than anyone else. Whereas where if ye have had stages that ye were class, ye might have a drop off again. Man City have always had a drop off. You look at us throughout the years, we've at least never dropped out of the top division. And to be honest, usually we finished in the top half of the table as well.
Bar the few odd seasons, like for example, the mid-90s when you finished 11th in the league. I believe you also finished 12th at one point. So yes, there is that level of argument. Chelsea have also done the same in retrospect. Chelsea in the 90s, they had periods where they were finishing, sometimes they were finishing 6th. They finished as high as 4th. I think it was 3rd or 4th in 99. I think it was 4th. So I think Liverpool finished 3rd. But you also had those periods where they were in those stages. So that's a very fair point. You did have that period of success. One stipulates from pre the war. That's a very valid point. And obviously after the war, there has been levels of success. And I think for Arsenal, I think they've had similar periods where they've only went close to 20 years each time for their longest periods without winning the league title.
To put your point in it, the longest period we have gone without a league title is tied with our current one this season of 18 years. If we do not win it this year, it will be our longest period ever.
And as for Chelsea?
Right, well, long, oh Jesus, what was it, 2016 was it? Last time we won?
Last time you won a league. Last time you won a league championship was 2014-15. But before
2014-15. Sorry, it was
Yeah.
Leicester in 2016, wasn't it?
that is correct.
Right.
That's correct.
But my point is, I'm going to make now. When does history stop becoming a factor? When do Chelsea get history? When does what we've accomplished in the past, let's say 30 years, for example, when is that becoming our history? When is that a modern situation that like we can apply to a modern day argument, or can we count that as history? We're saying Arsenal have history. Why doesn't Chelsea have history? It might have been a longer period, that you've done it, but that's because if like in 10 years, 4 years, 30 years time, do we get to say, oh, we're the biggest club because back then we won all these? Or do we get to say, back then you were the biggest club? Now, do you still consider yourselves the biggest club? But sure, can we not say, oh, in 30 years' time, Chelsea were the biggest club back then?
Mm-hmm.
When does history stop becoming a main factor, and when does Chelsea get that history?
You see, in terms of that, you're creating your history right now. You're in your period of dominance, which is no doubt the last 20 years you've been the most successful team in England. Now, you can continue building up upon that, and that's where you say the difference between the best team in England and the biggest. You've got to take history into account when you include into the biggest, to look along all generations to see throughout the entirety of the ups and downs of each club, and then you've got to make your own decision. If this was a debate about the best, Jesus, I wouldn't be in here at all. We've got terrible for the last few years.
The debate would have ended 12 minutes ago.
But
at least we can agree on that.
Our team is terrible compared to what it used to be. However, we are still a bigger team if you look at our success, and at least we are still building upon it, even if it's only FA Cups. We are still at least gaining trophies, unlike, say, a Tottenham or other teams.
Does the rate on which you win trophies matter?
I think it will all kind of... It does have a factor in it, but obviously the quantity is kind of where you're going to look at. And I know other people, and I've seen in the comments say, you wouldn't rate community shields and charity shields and all that. In the last 5 or so years, the last decade, you wouldn't. However, before that, it used to actually be a game that most teams would actually go for. I'd say back around even 2004 or 5, when that Arsenal United rivalry, we played each other in a community shield. There was no hell for leather. Both teams wanted to win that. And it's just, I don't know, around
was that more that match? Was that more for the cup itself, or was that more for bragging rights?
Always bragging rights.
Bit of both. It's a bit of both. You've got to have that silverware, and it is bragging rights.
But if it wasn't the final, let's say the first game of the tournament, it would still be hell for leather. It'd still be that much aggression in it. So I don't think it was more for the trophy itself. I think it was more for bragging rights between the two clubs. But what I wanted to think is, I'm after losing the point now.
Do you want me to put a little bit of intermission so I can read the comments?
Sorry, if William just rewinds there on what he's saying, I'll be able to kick it back up.
We'll come back to William's point in a minute. We'll just take a wee intermission on William's point. And I'll just quickly come through the comments. And no, Daniel, I'm not pieing your comments. I was letting the lads get on with it. So, I will say hello, Daniel. Tonight it is just Evan versus Key. It's just Evan versus William. Sorry, that was not intentional. It's just those two against each other. I'll also put this comment up by Aston. Good evening. Hope you're well, mate. Can we agree Villa are bigger than both? Absolutely. Just because it's fun. Sean reverted to community shields already. Yeah, there's always going to be a community shield, mate. Don't worry, there's always going to be one. I do have a question for you. This is for William. So this should be fun. Which one would you rather have? Would you rather have a gold trophy that you failed to defend in the following season, or would you rather win 3 trophies in a calendar year? What would you rather have?
You see,
respect the achievement, but I still have to.
They're both kind of like that. I'm happy with my Invincibles versus the treble, because let's be fair though, you're the only team to have kind of won the treble. We're the only one to have the Invincibles. So they're on par. I know this sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but I will stick with the Invincibles because it's quite a unique achievement. But at the same time, the treble was a unique achievement.
I'd probably agree with William there. So I think the consistency over the period of time would be nicer than to just hold it into 1 year.
It's a very fair point. I know which one I'd rather have. Obviously, I know which one I'd rather have. Obviously, hello, Dean. It says, give it to him, Fahey. He does.
Reece, I don't know if you pronounced my name wrong as a joke or what, was Fahey.
I don't know how to pronounce his surname.
I
don't know how to pronounce it. So how do you say it?
Fahey.
Fahey.
Fahey, yeah, Fahey.
If I was to say that, I feel like I'm calling you Fahey, and I don't want to do that.
No, I know it's just the name.
It sounds cruel if I say that. It sounds cruel.
Sure. Whichever you prefer.
I'll just call you E.
Big Ev, Big E.
Big Ev, no. Okay, we are going to come back into the point. I did say we'd take a little intermission, so we're going to come back to that history point of when does history actually factor in? Because obviously Evan brought up a very fair comment. He says, when does the histories for Chelsea in terms of like the one title in 55, then winning for 50 years in terms of the league title, but they also won numerous trophies in the 90s. They did win the Cup Winners' Cup. They won the Super Cup. They did win the FA Cup. Exactly, they lost 4-0 to Man United in an FA Cup too. They've done all that. But, and I'm going to have snide comments for each tonight and the moderator.
I know you're going to slip them in. I'm waiting for 2008.
That's already came.
I already had 2008, remember? There's one for William that's coming. Don't worry, and he's not going to like it. But that happens. But in terms of like that history comment, I'm going to open up to William because it was William that brought up in response to Evan's comment. When does Chelsea's history of the 90s onwards, up to now with their levels of dominance and their success, when does that actually become a sense of, you know what, you've got money, but why shouldn't that not be included right now as a terms of historical comment? Just a question to you.
To be fair, I do take it into account. Like, I have looked at all of Chelsea's successes and just to see the difference between the earlies and now. And if you look at it, it's fantastic, really. Like, you have pre the Abramovich era, you had one league title. Now you've won like 6 altogether. Where you had like 1 FA Cup before that, and you have like 8 now. You've gained like 3 more League Cups, 3 more Community Shields. You had won 2 full members competitions, which for us, we wouldn't even know what that meant, right, as a competition. However, I still take that in as success. That was a competition that was brought in because of the Heysel disaster, and English teams weren't allowed in Europe, so they added another competition, just so everyone knows. So you won 2 of those. As well as that, like, you have the 2 Champions Leagues, you have the 2 Europa Leagues that we don't have, which ultimately, yeah, you can definitely use that as a point and use that as history as leverage on us. As well as having 1 European Super Cup and 2 UEFA Cup Winners' Cups in that. So you do have history in terms of the past. However, I just look at it as a larger one. But in about 10 years' time, this might even be a little bit more towards Chelsea, in my opinion.
That's the point I'm after figuring it out. Sorry, go on, William. I'm after figuring the point out. Go on.
Say your point.
My point was that I was going to say was, if Arsenal and Chelsea keep going on the trajectory that they're going on now, are Arsenal going to be fading out like Tottenham and be considered a small club? Because Tottenham had that period where they won nothing, and that's the whole reason why Tottenham aren't in this discussion. They're not considered the biggest in, but yet they have that history. But yet since then they faded out since then. And I'm just wondering if Arsenal keep going on that trajectory, and in 20, 40 years time they're after fading out, still haven't won a trophy, and become like what Tottenham are now, bottlers. Do we consider Arsenal a small club then in the future at that time then?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that happens. You're only as good as you are kind of now and how you keep on progressing. What I can say is at least we are still winning FA Cups in order to stay relevant. Now, when does that become enough? I'd argue already it isn't enough. We need to try and progress even further to try and get back up into a conversation that we I'm not going to say deserve to be in, because no team deserves to be in there, but I feel like that we should be in. There's no doubt that where you've had great owners, our owners have kind of lacked the motivation to drive us on further, and it's come at a detriment to the club's success. And ultimately, what makes the history of a club is success, like it or not.
But struggling to win FA Cups is not.
If we don't end up winning much more trophies in the next 10 years, even to say the next 10 years, if you're to win, say, 4 or 5 more titles and get equal in leagues with us, then you've already overtaken us once you equal us in leagues. We still have that gap, so we are still the biggest team in London, in my opinion, at the moment. However, that gap has gone from that and is slowly shrinking. But I don't think you have overtaken us yet.
I have a point on both sides, and I'm going to throw this out to you guys as a curveball. So you've mentioned because of the title gap, which is very fair, but I'm going to put this into a curveball because they've got 2 European Cups. They've also got a Cup Winners' Cup as well, and they've got the Super Cups. They've got the Club World Cup.
That's the point I was going to make. Like,
when does the European side help Chelsea close that gap? What else does Chelsea need to do, in your estimation, for you to openly admit now?
Because it seems like all that point William made, it seemed like it was only based off domestic cups, and that was the point I was going to make. When does European come into this?
Once you get to about 10 leagues, that's when I'd say it, where we have 14. Your European success takes it well above the 4 extra league cups. To be fair, like we have some, like where you have 2 UEFA Cup Winners' Cups, we have 1, so that's 1 extra. We have an Intercity Fairs Cup, so that equals it out. So you do have the 4 extra European competitions.
And would you not consider them much more valuable than, say, like the FA Cups?
Yeah, they would be more than FA Cups. Of course they would be. But we do still also have an invincible Premier League trophy, which is, again, some people will say, oh yeah, it's only 1 Premier League, but I'll take an invincible Premier League trophy over 1 Champions League.
Yeah, but you also made a point about winning FA Cups to stay relevant and be in the conversation. When is struggling to win FA Cups year in, year out, and that's what your main goal is, an argument to stand behind?
Winning FA Cups on its own is not going to hold up the argument.
It feels like you've accepted that.
It just keeps us in the argument for the moment. Now, we need to progress in the next 5 or 6 years to be challenging and winning league titles in order to stay in this argument, to be brutally honest.
So, yeah, you have accepted that you're brutal for challenging for the Premier League, and in near future, you won't be challenging anytime soon. You have accepted that.
No, because if I'm being brutally honest, I still feel we're on the way up. And I will never look at my team and say,
humor me, William.
I'll never say we're on a decline. But we're building a squad at the moment, and we're in a rebuild. We've got a very young squad. Give it 3 or 4 years where they all gel together, and then we'll see how it comes.
How long is this rebuild?
We will. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a couple
How many more years? How many more years?
If I'm being brutally honest, you're looking at 2 or 3 more years to get back into, not into the top 4, but into where Man United kind of are now, and then a new manager.
Right. And did you not say there 2 minutes ago that in a few more years' times, if Chelsea keep going on the pendulum that they're going on, and so do Arsenal, Chelsea passed out Arsenal, the biggest club in London?
Yes. However, you still have to go on and actually win the leagues and win the trophies, whereas you might not do any of those this year. And if you win nothing and we win nothing, then they say the exact same, because you've got to still win them.
Predictions. Let's make an intelligent. Can I just make one point?
I will allow it. You have 30 seconds.
Let's make an intelligent guess here, right? Look at the path Chelsea are going on. Do you think they're on the up or the down? They're on the up. Let's look at Arsenal. Arsenal are on the down.
I wouldn't say you're on the full up. I'd say you've reached
coming off Champions League winners.
You've just won the Champions League. The only place is to go down.
and we can't stay
You're
on
at
that
the
path at all.
top. You're on the way to go down.
And it's my favourite comment of the night. Just to interject that, boys.
If you're on the way up, you're on the way down.
I'm gonna come back to I'm gonna come back to your point in a second because I have an interesting comment I want to come to, which is this one as well. But I'm just going to put this here as well. Dean's comment is Arsenal are already considered worse than Spurs. That's in Dean's opinion. Very, very fair. Very fair. I'll get to.
We all know how we stand on Arsenal.
The FA stands for effing atrocious. That's true. Bath time with Vaughn. I've literally just seen you in another show. I hope you're good, mate. Shane's comment. Senior Dowley. Chelsea are a bigger club. If your only argument for Arsenal being bigger is history that happened before you were born, then it's not enough in my opinion. Clout, brand pull, modern success, all factors too. Which we
exactly the point.
The next topic, which will come up, and I will do this as well. The live chat will determine who's the winner, not me. You will be getting votes on each topic that we go through tonight, lads. So we will do a scoring system, and then at the end we will do who is the bigger club. So, based on the history of that topic, in the live comments to those that are watching, just put a point and I'll tally up who wins that round. Is it Evan or is it William? Also, Shane, thank you for saying good show, and also for batting on football goes in cycles. Arsenal will always be a huge club, and I think there's something to the rebuild at Arsenal. Give it time.
And I mean, the whole point of the first point was about history anyway. It wasn't about the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can talk history, but if we're talking history, why isn't someone from Spurs here? Why don't we have someone?
Because if you look at Spurs history, Spurs don't have a lot of history.
They had the 50s, really. The 60s, the 70s. They won a lot. You can't deny that.
How many league titles have they won?
Well, I haven't looked too big into Spurs now. Yeah. So an Arsenal, but in fairness, you can't deny
Spurs are. Nah.
I think it's less than Sunderland.
Yeah. If you're talking to history, but a lot of clubs have history. But like I said, if you're looking at history, there should be a lot more clubs in here.
Yeah, but if you're looking at history entirely, but that was just the first part that we were told to debate.
Exactly. So if we're debating history, why isn't Spurs here? Why?
Because the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium sadly was booked out tonight. So there you go. Anyway, we are going to move on. Exactly. We are going to move on, and in the live chat, guys, you're watching, just score it. Who wins that round? Is it Evan or is it William? And I'll come back and I'll say overall for each round. Round 2. This is where it's going to get really fun. Fan base. And we're going to define it this one, so I want you to listen carefully. It's overall fan base across the globe, your home fan base in terms of at your home ground. So this includes Highbury and the Emirates Stadium, although to be fair, I don't think William wants to include the Emirates Stadium anyway. And the third one is ties in with the first one, like social media as well. Like how the fan base ties in from social media, and you can discuss the toxic side if you wish, or you can.
I think we both have it,
or you can completely block it out. But yes, so we're going to go for this time. We're going to start with Evan as a collective side from your fan base. Those 3 categories I've given you. What is greater and bigger? You can put this in 2 separate ways. What is bigger in terms of your fan base than it is compared to Arsenal? Is there something about the Chelsea fan base that is bigger than Arsenal, which contributes to being a bigger club?
Here, but I think internationally, Chelsea, I think edge it, but home turf, I'm not going to argue too much. I think Arsenal have the upper hand on it. As William said, as you said, the toxic side, I think it's more publicity for Arsenal with the banter FC, and the jokes and comments and memes are all made. I think it gets more publicity than Chelsea, because it's funny. It's nice to laugh at a club that's not your own, that are doing poor and all that crack. But going off supporting fans, I think internationally Chelsea have edged, but home turf, I think Arsenal. I have to give it to Arsenal. I feel it's like the history does play into it. It's been there a lot longer than Chelsea, but I don't think I have much more of an argument on fan base.
Okay. And William, do you have anything you want to add to that? Is there anything that you think maybe Evan's overlooked? even on his
To be
own fan
fair,
base? Is there
like,
anything you want to
in
include?
his own one, like I've looked at the figures, Chelsea have about 11 million more fans worldwide than Arsenal do. You have more in nearly every single continent, except for Oceania, so like Australia and them for some reason. But then if you're going back into the home stadiums, I've looked at kind of the figures for like average capacity and all that type of stuff. So since we moved into the Emirates, we've had 88 games completely sell out, whereas Chelsea have only had 74. And this is still despite Chelsea having a lower capacity as well. So we do have a lot of fans that end up showing up. Now, whether or not there's obviously always the big rumors that we push up the numbers without the fans being there. But I think even you've seen this year, like nearly every game, we had like 50,000 fans go into a Carabao Cup game against AFC Wimbledon this year. I think there's no doubt to say that our fans have slowly but surely coming together in order to try and support the team.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the social media side, sure, I mean, Arsenal fans blew up the fucking internet with AFTV. Now, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not going to say my decision. I think there's good aspects to it. I think there's bad aspects to it. I think it can put the club in a good light at times, but I think it can make it extremely negative when it's in a bad time, which, let's be honest, it was. And sorry,
Bath Time at Vaughan has interjected with the comment of the night. Sacking Gunnosaurus means Chelsea are a bigger club right now. In all fairness, that was horrific, and
that was absolutely scummy. I ain't going to disagree in the sense that I don't think that the board are very good. But in terms of the fans, again, like there's obviously some negative, extremely negative, especially if you go back in time with Chelsea fans that obviously I'm not going to bring up between the racial aspects and some things like that. There's obviously that history as well with some of the fans. Thankfully, that's changed a lot since Abramovich has taken over, and that's one thing I'll say is very
Thank
good
God
he's taken over. Thankfully.
I think we're more or less in agreement that like internationally Chelsea are a more bigger club. Home turf, Arsenal. I think we're both in agreement on that. I think that point to the AFTV. I think any publicity is good publicity. It gets the name and the brand out there. I like it's comical to watch. It is, whether you're being laughed at or you're seeing blood this and Abama ho and all that crack. It's great to entertainment, like, and it gets the name out there. So I think we're mainly in agreement there, like with the fan base.
Yeah. I agree with you there, lads. I agree on both accounts. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read a couple of comments and then we'll just come to a consensus over who wins this round. I think we can all pretty much agree that it's going to be Arsenal on this stage. It's probably one of the only few times they're going to win tonight. Shane's comment, it sounds silly, but you can't just look at trophies. It's probably the biggest thing, but Chelsea look like a big club, act like a big club, and considered a big club by everyone in football, more so than Arsenal. Very fair comment by Shane. And also a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but obviously we do understand. He has reiterated. He says, how can Williams say he'd take an invincible Premier League over a Champions League when he hasn't even won a Champions League?
Because, for a simple reason, how many English sides have won a Champions League? 5 altogether, whereas six, sorry, make it even better. Whereas only one team has won a Golden Premier League trophy. It makes it just a little bit more unique.
But how many English clubs have went unbeaten, William, in the league?
2.
Good, you know
Preston North End.
Good, you're not disrespecting the greater.
I'm not a plastic fan. I know my stuff at times.
Good, you're not disrespecting the greater invincible, which is Preston, because they've won a double.
Let's not lie. If I've said about the history for Arsenal since since we began in them, I've got to make way for Preston and their invincibles. I've got to keep it the same, like.
Know your place.
The difference is William would say this, but for example, Ty wouldn't. Apparently, who knows? We would never really know. Bath time move on. Football clubs are community institutions that should reflect and include that community. That should be more important than social media and brand deals. I do agree. It's why certain clubs have got better connection with their fan base because they actively go out and engage. That's why so many, even though at times, rival fans are going to hate them. Man United, obviously, there's some fans who are going to hate them like rivals, but you can't disregard like Man United's involvement in community is the same. It's the same with like Arsenal and Chelsea, they're very active in the London communities.
In fact,
Very active.
sure, when my cousin, her appendix burst, and she was very close. Yeah, I saw that comment. It's hilarious. Well, when her appendix burst,
for the record, everyone watching, in case you do get a little bit confused, he's not laughing at his cousin. He's laughing at this.
Yeah, it was at the finger. He's not laughing at the fact that her appendix burst and she nearly died. But it was around that time. It was basically just a few days before Christmas and everything. And Theo Walcott and everything came in, was into the whole hospital in order to give away like free Arsenal stuff, make sure everyone was all right. And it wasn't just this fleeting moment. They spent personal time with everyone. And we just seem to do it a lot, as well as with some of the homeless campaigns as well.
And that's what you should be all about in terms of actively involved. I mean, I know. Yeah. I think he started at Chelsea, but obviously it continued in Man United. Was like one matter of his involvement in charitable foundations. I think it did start at Chelsea. Am I right? He started his charitable stuff at Chelsea.
Coming at the end of his career at Chelsea. Yeah, it was. But like stuff like that, it is nice to see. But is it to try counteract the memes and the bad press?
No,
I hope not.
We done this years and years before even the bad press, and unfortunately the bad press has gotten even worse. It's unfortunate that members at our board level are kind of tearing down what we've tried to earn with how they've handled some other situations, but
it's
that's just the way the cookie crumbled.
Can I just go back to Shane's comment? Why?
Yeah, of course. I'll come back to this question in a minute. Then, which question is that?
Why we are considered a bigger club? Like, why do people consider us? Yeah, why other teams consider us a bigger club? Why other teams hold us in higher regards than we say the likes of Arsenal? Why, if a team is facing, we have Arsenal at the weekend, or we have Chelsea at the weekend, why are you going to be more concerned about? I feel like it's how we hold the club itself. Or in the past 20 to 30 years, I feel like the social media side does come into that, and the fan base does come into that. It's some of your fans have hurt the club, AFTV, the toxic side. Yes, Chelsea have as well, but we are still held higher in regards of Jesus, we've Chelsea at the weekend, or Jesus, we've Arsenal at the weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like first game was against Arsenal there this year. I brushed it off the shoulders. It meant nothing to me. I knew it. Yeah, derby, all that crack. It was nothing. It was mid club like game. Do you know what I mean? I was confident we were going to win. It wasn't, oh no, we've City, or oh no, we've United. Tough game. Oh no, we've Liverpool. It was, it's only Arsenal. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of other Chelsea supporters are like that. And I feel like a lot of other clubs are like that more recently in the past few years. And I feel like that's why others hold us in such high regards, because recently we've been the more dominant side, and I feel like that's why a lot of people think Chelsea are the bigger club. Like, history does stand for you, but history means fuck all in today's age. In terms of, we have this coming up.
You got a response to that?
Yeah, to be fair, that's because most people, they have memories of a goldfish nowadays in terms of the social media age. Everyone goes through periods of time where they're struggling. This just happens to be our biggest one. And it's because of how we've been run. I'm not making any assumptions over that. It's how the members at the top, different transfer decisions and off-field decisions, however close we seem to have gotten to where we only needed one or two more, it just cost us. And the biggest one was moving to the Emirates, and then
that was the best club ever done.
Once the big money boom came in, started because of Abramovich and Chelsea, we weren't able to catch up because we had to stay at a certain level.
Every club has money. Every club has money, regardless of how you spend it. How much do you spend on Pepe?
Yes, that is this year.
Every club has
15 years. Look at the change since 2004 when the money got brought in even more. Look at the change. And it's not just more money. It's not just Real Madrid, Barcelona, all the rest. What UEFA did was the worst thing. They brought in financial fair play, but not in the right way. They
Right, but
haven't accounted for it. We spent
every
within
club
our
has
means.
money.
We kept our team in the green the whole time until basically about 4 or 5 years ago, whereas every other team are running in debt.
That's fair enough, but every club has money. It's how you spend it. Do you know what I mean? You could have
Yes.
easily spent the money you spent on Pepe getting a decent player. Yeah, you took a chance, you took a risk, didn't work out for you. But how many times are you going to make that excuse where, we spent millions and millions on this player and it ends up being a flop? How many flops are on the Arsenal team that you spent millions on?
There are plenty of flops.
Plenty.
And yeah.
You can keep going with plenty,
Yeah.
so you can.
But, right, if your takeover never happened in 2004, right, and if that money never gets brought in, and the value of transfers never goes up and up and up, then we'd have maybe been able to spend more money back in 2006.
If buts and maybes.
When we only needed 1 or 2 players to stay at the top level, we weren't able to buy them because Man Cities and ye were able to come in, use the money that ye had to take our best players. Once ye had taken our best players, yeah, let's be honest.
Stop. Them players left Arsenal. Them players knew they were on a downfall. Them players knew that Arsenal was on a downfall.
Ashley Cole and got fined for it.
Stop.
And that was the very start.
What about everyone that didn't come to Chelsea, that left that club their own will to move to different clubs outside of London?
Yes.
Them players knew that team was on a downfall. They knew that Arsenal were on a downfall. They jumped off a sinking ship to go off and win trophies. How many players have left Arsenal to win trophies next year?
We weren't always the full sinking ship, right? They started with Ashley Cole gone. Next thing you know, we needed only 1 or 2 players. Then we moved to the Emirates. Once we moved to the Emirates, we had a certain salary cap that we weren't able to buy the 1 or 2 players in order to reach the top again. Once we weren't able to reach the top, ye saw a chance, and fair fucks, that's perfect management and everything, to say, look, we'll take their better players, we'll take them into our sides, and we will try and win the league. Once a team has lost about 5 or 6 players of their key players and have to rebuild every single position, a whole new spine, and once you look at Arsenal's management and how we've tried to do it, it's impossible because we haven't done it the right way. And yes, that is partly our fault, but anytime we started to get a good spine, you'd take 1 or 2 players again, and boom, we'd be gone because you'd be able to offer them more money because we weren't able to offer them because we had to pay off our stadium. Fact is, we didn't have the money, and once the economy changed and ye all had the more money, we couldn't do it because we'd lose the stadium and we'd basically go bankrupt and we wouldn't be a club anymore.
I'll put this point to you, so right, transfer window comes around. Arsenal are able to offer the same contract as Chelsea are. This player, a young up-and-coming player, wants to join a London club. Do you honestly think that player is going to choose Arsenal over Chelsea? Because of their history. I'll go with Chelsea.
It wouldn't happen anymore because you're the better club at the moment. However, if you're looking at it was a key moment.
No one is picking Arsenal on that decision. No one.
Because you're a better side at the moment. You just won the Champions League. Of course that's not even the argument. The argument's who is a bigger club. And the main reason why we are being bigger is because we moved to the Emirates at that stage, which meant we couldn't invest when we could, and then everything happened, and there was no, we couldn't. We were literally at the peak. The main reason why we had players taken from us is because we couldn't offer them any more money because the bank wouldn't allow it. It was in our contract. It was.
And why didn't you invest in players that were there already? Why didn't you invest in top?
We did it. We got top 4
in
season. In teams we should never have gotten top 4 with. Let's be brutally honest. Arsene Wenger ran miracles.
We will be coming
miracles with that money.
That will probably be included in our final topic when we get there towards the end of the show. The top 4 champions versus Champions League champions. We will get to that. I'm just going to come for a couple of comments because I will tell you this now. This live chat is booming. There's been some brilliant there's some brilliant comments, and this is one of them. Evan is cutting a WWE promo right now. Yes, he is going full on CM Punk. I've got CM bitch on the side, and I've got Stone Cold Kai bitch underneath. Come at this one as well. Actually, I'll leave this question to the end. I want to get through a couple of comments first. You see the thing about the old days. They are the old days. Well, that's true. I'm still
a United fan would know all about that at the moment.
Oh, I'll back you on that, William. I'll back you on that.
You have to win a trophy. You have a great team at the moment. Just saying.
It's shameful if you don't.
We need to win a trophy, but to be fair, like living in the past, well, at least our past includes 3 European Cups. What does yours have?
Might include the last 5 years. Hey.
Shout out to The Wire, amazing TV show. It was also because Wenger couldn't navigate the modern transfer market. He wasn't prepared to fight for a signing and deal with an agent. Hey, he was a pussy.
Hold on, hold on at that comment there. Can I just say something? Once Wenger went, how well did Arsenal do after that?
A Europa League final and they lost. Back-to-back Europa League finals, mind. Under Wenger, then Emery.
Do you know what I mean? I think
it was the semi-final under Wenger. We lost to Atletico Madrid.
Oh, well, sorry, mistake.
No, if you gave Wenger the knowledge of the modern transfer window, do you think he would have done better than Arteta? Or do you know what I mean? I think the downfall was really hit when Arsenal lost Wenger. That's why I'm so Wenger in, because I feel like if you ask any Arsenal fan now, they'll beg for Wenger. They would beg for it. And don't tell me you would not beg for Wenger back.
Let's be honest though, there was a stage where you're gonna have to transition out of Wenger regardless. So where I said, look, it was time for him to go because the playing style, we would have plateaued, we'd have been mid-range for as long as, let's be honest, he ain't gonna live forever. He was gonna have to die or retire one day.
Just to throw a dig. Like Ferguson, he left off a sinking ship.
Oh wow! You actually brought the goat into this. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the
Ferguson. Same as Ferguson. He jumped the sinking ship.
To be fair as well, though, Arsene Wenger didn't jump. He got pushed. He got sacked, regardless of what you think.
Yeah, fair enough. He was on the way out either way.
The performances weren't good enough because the team wasn't good enough, and regardless, we were on a downward ship with or without him. So it was better to start that transition without him then than wait until we were 8th or 9th with him and then go down even worse.
I bet you're begging for 4th now, though, aren't you?
Oh, well, Arsenal TV probably is. Arsenal fan TV probably are. But here's a fair comment. You spoke about Chelsea pinching players and all that. Well, in what was said, you also saying Sol Campbell. Although to be fair, let's be fair. When I was complaining about it, I said, "Well done, it's good management. If you're a top club, you're going to do that." And part of me doesn't blame him for doing that. It's just so frustrating that it was such a key time that we didn't have the finances to what we could do. 11
whereas
points
we had 1 or 2 more players.
11 points clear. But yeah, you're right. In the sense of where you've come and gone, there are polar differences now in terms of, and I'm not going to purely talk about trophies won here. I'm actually going to talk about polar difference of when I was growing up, literally it was up until 2005 before Mourinho won that league title. It was literally just Man United and Arsenal. Liverpool were still there as the big rivals, but in the Premier League, it was...
It wasn't. It was just us.
It was Man United versus Arsenal, even though Liverpool was the biggest rival. But then Chelsea came in. And look at how they changed things. Times have changed in the polar opposite. You're going to have your periods, which we are going to be coming up to later on, and that's probably where you're going to get roasting each other. But this is where it really gets interesting. I do have a comment before we move on to our next topic. Topic number 3 of 5. And then the last part of the show is a special that we've agreed between the boys and obviously Keane, who is the man that runs this channel. He's not appearing tonight, but he did agree us to do this. We are going to do a combined 11. And I'll be sitting there telling them that it's not as good as Man United's teams anyway. So we will be going through this. So that question was... Here is it. Just finding it because it was a really good question. It was actually I just had there it is, sorry. It was bath time with Vaughn's question. Do you think the average fan can name more legends from Arsenal or Chelsea because it's Arsenal, surely? And that's just a question to both of you. In terms of that, if you actually had to go and name legends of irrespective clubs, would you say more leans towards Arsenal, more towards Chelsea, or do you think it'd be fairly close?
Arsenal have a longer period of when I think history-wise, like I said before, Arsenal have the bigger history, as if you want to say, going back the whole way. I feel like legends have come for Chelsea from the past 20 to 30 years. some went to Arsenal to retire. Uh, but that's for a later argument. But I feel like Arsenal, you could argue back in the day, more legends were at Arsenal.
Yeah. I feel like you could argue, yeah, we have more legends, but at the same time, Chelsea have more current legends that will be legends in 10 years' time. So that's where that argument comes.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement there.
Yeah. Like, look, we have more names. Like, I guarantee you can now name probably 5 players before, well, let's say even 5 players before 2000s that are proper Chelsea legends. But at the same time, I probably couldn't name before the 80s any. But
I know
too
I
many.
Could. 90s I could. 90s I could, yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's a lot harder to be called a legend nowadays as well, though.
Here's a question.
Yeah,
what
the quality of... Sorry, go on.
Okay, then. On the grounds of that, then, to you two now, on the flip side of Bath Time Vaughan's comment, what do you two now define the word legend? How do you define the word legend now?
I feel like one of the best quality footballers of their time would be fairly accurate, would you not say?
Yeah, I'd say you would have to left a positive impact on your club and the league as a whole.
I don't think trophy winning should really take too much into account because there's been plenty of...
No. I mean, Matt Le Tissier is the fucking Premier League legend, and he's never really won anything.
Does longevity factor in for you both? Does longevity factor in as a category for legend?
I think over their career they become a legend. Whether they spend it like a period of time at said club, I think they're still a legend in their own right. A legend at the club, depending on how long they stay at the club and what they do for the club, it does matter. Like, you can't just have a lone player come in that's just a legend overall. Like, if we had, just say for the crack, Kaka went to Arsenal for a 6-month loan. Do you know what I mean? The Kaka is still a legend, but an Arsenal legend, you wouldn't class it as.
Very well. That's fair. That is completely fair. Thank you for that. We are going to move on, and I think this is where the live chat, myself, 1 second.
I think I burned a lot of bridges with that Fergie comment.
Yeah, after the live chat tonight, if Evan has still got his head, it'll say twat on it in black marker.
But in fairness, give Moyes' team to Fergie. Does Fergie do better with that team than Moyes? Just entertain me.
I'll come back to this end because I misheard what you said there, so that's my apologies. I'm going to say this: Gareth Barry is, in a sense, I think he is a Premier League legend. I think he actually deserves to be put in the maybe not the absolute legend, but I think in terms of what he's actually done, then yes, I think it'd be harsh not to include Gareth Barry as a Premier League legend because he's got the most Premier League appearances for a player as well. He has that. That's his record. But sorry, could you just go back to that question you asked there?
Oh, just as I was saying about the Moyes or the Fergie comment.
Mm-hmm.
For the crack, Fergie stays on for another year.
Yeah.
Moyes' team that he got absolutely slated for, in my opinion, I think. Give Ferguson that team. Does he do as well as Moyes, or does the same result come out?
I'll be honest. I don't think we would win the league. I don't think we would have defended the title. I think we may have just lost that against City or maybe Chelsea, depending on how. Because obviously that Chelsea team as well, like they got the semi-finals of the Champions League as well. I'm pretty sure under Mourinho, and obviously Man City won the league. I think we would be second, but it'd be similar to how we won the league before. I think it would be like a bit of a gap, but not too much. But I think he does it better because he can manage big game players better than anybody else, and at least he would know certain players. He wouldn't disrespect them by saying, learn to play football like Phil Jagielka, for example. He would at least have that in preparation. He would know how to handle it. I don't think we would have won the league, in all fairness, if Ferguson had stayed another year. I don't think he would have won it. I think year to be spent, but
I think he got out at the right time. I think it was nice to go out to see him a champion. Like, there's no debating. He is the best there ever was and ever will be, I think, in the Premier League as a manager in terms of the game. But I
look how it changed. I think certain players would have thrived under Alex Ferguson that, for example, didn't thrive under Moyes. So the two names He's one of them. The other I would say is Adnan Januzaj. That would happen. And Keane's also right by saying no, he wouldn't. 100% he would not sign Marouane Fellaini.
No, I couldn't see that.
Marouane Fellaini wouldn't even be in the top 20 list. Although, to be fair, credit where credit's due, he did help us win trophies. But I look at it, I don't know if we would win the league in 13-14. We did win it comfortably in 12-13. We won it by 11 points, for goodness sake. We won what, 28, 29 games in the league? 29 because it's our record we've won in the league. But do I think we would go and win it the following year? Maybe not, but maybe if he stayed another year after that, maybe to say like, well, actually I want another one. He would, because he would go and get what he needs, and he would take the league back off Man City or Chelsea, whoever had won it if he had actually stayed. Do I think he would have won it though? All personal side, no. I don't think he would have, because the squad needed a bit of refreshing. I think he would have to invest a bit of time into that. So that's the thing. He would need that bit of time to refresh it. But some players that didn't thrive under Moyes definitely would thrive under Sir Alex Ferguson, and Zaha and Januzaj would definitely be two of them. And Ashley Young would have had better goals that season as well. And Van Persie would have done more than score a hat-trick against Olympiacos. He would have done a lot more because he'd actually get used as a better number 9. He would be used better.
Yeah.
Moyes didn't know what to do with him. Ronaldo comes back to United if Fergie stayed on here. He would have done.
He did now anyway, so who worries?
Yeah.
Why worry?
But anyway, we aren't talking about the greatest club in football. We aren't talking about the greatest club in England tonight because, frankly, United are always in discussion. We're talking about Dweeb FC and Finnish Gunners. We're talking about Arsenal versus Chelsea. We are going to move on to the one topic that's going to make the debate a bit more fun. We've already discussed history. We've discussed fan base. Natural. Does Juan Mata sign for United? No. He'll go back to Valencia. We are going to move on to trophies. And I think Evan's going to be sitting there going, I only need to mention one to shut him up. So we are going to go for it. It is trophies. It is 55, one before that as well for Arsenal as well. We are going to talk European trophies, domestic cups, who's won the most dinner plates. It's Arsenal anyway. But we are going to say what happens.
I mean, the facts are facts. Like, do you know what I mean? Arsenal have the more trophies. It's that plain and simple. European trophies.
Yes.
Chelsea have the side. There's no debate in that. Whether they stand up against Arsenal's domestic trophies, it's debatable. I think they do. I think European trophies deserve a lot more value than John winning league titles before 1930s. John, I think they hold up against the 4 or 5 that you won before the war.
It didn't exist though. It didn't exist until 55.
True, yeah, but if you look at the competition domestic wise, right, compared to the competition European wise, like it's like I'd rather go against Everton than Real or Barca any day.
I don't know right now.
Well, yeah, considering, but like in all honesty, I think Europe is a lot tougher to dominate than the Premier League.
Well, we know all about that. We've dominated both. But on the flip side, though, in terms of what you have accumulated, you have brought up a comment of your European trophies. It does match up to their trophies pre-war, because obviously they did win 5 league titles, I believe, before the war. So they have that. You've got your numerous European trophies. We don't have to go into them because pretty much you've won every single European trophy there is to win. Chelsea have done that. But in terms of like overall major honor success, I'm not exactly sure of the numbers. I assume William or Evan, you have the official major trophies, one each. Can you fill them in for me?
I think all together, Arsenal have 66 trophies,
something like that.
I don't have the exact numbers written down to be honest. I think it's, and I think Chelsea have about 54. I want to say.
Okay.
I think it's in the teens on the difference of all trophies won by both clubs. I think that it's between 10 and 13 trophies difference. Arsenal have. The facts are there. Arsenal have more trophies. Comparing trophy-wise, I think European Cups they deserve more credit than Community Shields.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're all in agreement on that. Like,
Yeah, I honestly don't care the fact that Man United have shared 4 dinner plates. We've shared it 4 times. We've won it 21 times. I honestly don't care about Community Shields.
yeah, I think a lot of people would agree Community Shields aren't that in high regard. Yeah, it's an honor to win them. Like, fair play. Like, you know, you went out and you won them, but in comparison, it's not really up for debate comparing them to like Premier League wins or, do you know what I mean, FA Cups or European.
Speaking of Community Shields, just one for example, there was a Community Shield that I believe Van der Sar was in goal and he saved 3 Chelsea penalties, and we won that one. But there's another bit on the old team sheet of snide digs. There's another one, and obviously we have beaten Arsenal numerous times in the Community Shield. We've also lost to Arsenal in the Community Shield. We lost 3-0 in the.
It was a great Community Shield. They were great times.
No, it was crap. It was crap. We're not. I'm not giving you the face moment, but we did lose a Community Shield in '99, the year we won the treble. We lost 3-0. Crap that was, but even so, our season was still better. We have our ups, we have our downs. But in terms of trophies won, I'm going to put this into a factor of what you measure against. So we're going to, if you want to include Community Shields, obviously William will smile because obviously the VAR difference between Chelsea and Arsenal is huge. In terms of what you're going to measure against, Evan, I will let you decide where you want to measure certain success, such as European titles against, say, for example, Arsenal's FA Cups or whatever it is you want to measure against. William, you've got the league titles. You've also got the FA Cup record. So I'm going to base on that. We are going to start with William taking us forward. So what do you measure the bigger success with in terms of trophies? What makes Arsenal bigger than Chelsea purely on a trophy aspect?
In my opinion, on a trophy aspect, it's mostly because we have more league titles. We have more... Again, it may just seem nothing, but we've more FA Cups, which was the biggest cup competition in England. Always was, always will be, and it deserves a lot more respect than it fucking gets because it's one of the best cup competitions in the world. Even foreign people from Germany used to get up and watch the coverage all day. Yeah, we have more Community Shields. Again, I'll jokingly bring it to the context because it helps build up our tally a bit more than you. Altogether, yeah, Chelsea's European trophies do take them a little bit higher in terms of that, but at least I can say that we have a league trophy that we went unbeaten for, which again, I hold in the same regard as the Champions League. What I can also say is, and despite Evan saying that pre-war doesn't matter, at least I can say we won 3 league titles in a row in our history as well. It may have been back in the 30s, but we won 3 in a row, something that you didn't do.
Under Herbert
Chapman. Only United have done. Someone else probably has. But
Liverpool
Herbert Chapman might.
Liverpool also won 3 in a row.
Yeah,
I think Liverpool won it. I think it was going into it was in the 80s, maybe it'd been the end of the
70s and 80s. Liverpool never dominated, so
yeah, absolutely. And just because Keane's just thrown it in there.
Fair enough. Like,
that's it.
Spurs are. Do you know what? I'll say it now. Spurs are a big club. Yeah, that's a contender.
I'm gonna say it just because of that comment. Spurs are driving away with this debate.
Not that they were the first London club to win the double. Not that they won the UEFA Cup. No, it's purely the fact they've got more Audi Cups than both. Although to be fair,
Audi Cups is a big cup.
I know, like we've got to include that, lads. It's such a monumental achievement. We won the Audi Cup, and I won the award for longest sleeper. I'm still sleeping. But anyway, all the banter aside, the trophies won. Is there any particular seasons or?
Just coming to trophies. Mm-hmm. I just want to say between Chelsea and Arsenal, I think Chelsea shoot more for top league, as in the bigger cups, whereas Arsenal shoot for the likes of the FA and the Community Shield. I don't think it's fair to compare where what Chelsea aim for to compare to what Arsenal aim for. Like Chelsea aim for winning Premier Leagues to win Champions League, whereas Arsenal aims to top 4 Community Shields. It's not fair to compare it.
That's only recently though. Let's be
What do
honest.
you want
You look back to the early 2000s. We weren't looking to just compete. We were looking to try and win the Champions League. We just couldn't get over the line. We got to the 06 final. We got to many semi-finals around that stage, where we just ended up losing to teams that were just at such a high quality that we couldn't compete. Unfortunately, has the smug look on his face will let you think who that was that year. And the year before that, we lost to Liverpool, who lost in the final.
Right, but if you go to them Chelsea teams that have aimed for Premier Leagues and Champions League and say, right, we're going to aim for the FA Cup, the Community Shields, and they put all their focus in that, like, you think it's fair to say that if we're somewhat over mediocre in going for the bigger trophies, we'd be absolutely dominating for the smaller trophies. I think that's fair to say. Like, we would dominate for the smaller trophies, whereas Arsenal are struggling for Community Shields, FA Cups, and not even thinking about Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues.
I mean,
you're not thinking about Premier League. You're not thinking about winning.
I wouldn't say we're exactly struggling. I mean, the last two FA Cups we won. Who did we beat in the final?
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, so you can't say you're not going for the FA Cup if you reached the final that year and you just so happen to lose to us. That doesn't suit your narrative.
But what else were we going for that year? What else are we going for that year? What else
are
we going for every other year?
You won the Premier League that year. You won the Premier League one of those years and you had a chance to do a double, but you couldn't do the double. Doing the double makes it from here to here.
It was a year that
main focus is the top tier trophies, not Community Shields.
But
where your main focus is the Community Shields and 4th place. That's your top priority.
It is
staying up, get past mid-table. Ours is win this, win that. Yours is
this season.
Get higher than Spurs.
This season,
it's not just this season. It's recent seasons, past seasons, and future seasons. Chelsea are aiming to win Premier Leagues, win European trophies. Whereas Arsenal's
until next season, you finish about 6th, then you end up selling your manager, and then you go on to the next run again. Is it?
Hold on. But in recent years, it's what Arsenal are doing are aiming for top 6.
In recent years, we finished 8th, and in the last 10 years, we've never finished as low as your lowest position, which is 9th.
All right, but consistency is key. Like, your consistency is
so if you're talking about consistency,
mid-table.
I'll go back into the sense that we've won a league in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 90s.
But what you're aiming for?
How many decades?
But what you're aiming for, Will, that's my whole point. What you're aiming for? What are you aiming for this season? Can I just ask you that?
For this season, yeah, we don't have the squad to win the Premier League.
What were you aiming for last season? What are you aiming for next season?
You know what?
Season after that?
If I'm going to be brutally honest, yeah, the club are aiming for the league because it's still mathematically possible. As soon as it's not mathematically possible, then fair. Every single team is aiming to win that Premier League.
Yeah, but being realistic, though. You're
think... not on about being realistic. It's on about what we're aiming for. And if you're asking them, they're going to say we're aiming to win the league.
And what are the odds?
Wrap your fish. Just saying this now. Fair point. There's fair points there. There is one wee bit you overlooked, though. There's one wee bit you overlooked. There's one wee thing you overlooked. We still have more than you. And I'll just say this as well, because this is a fair point, is Jono, haven't seen you before, good evening. Man United and Liverpool are bigger clubs in London, and they aren't even based in London. Every time we turn up, we're always the talking point. Reece, are you wearing a whistle for being the ref? No, I'm actually wearing a Buddha charm that a friend got me from Thailand. And Jono, no, you are correct. You are correct. And Dean, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. And stop. Mother. But this is where I'm going to get you to really dial down your trophies here. We're not going to look at Community Shields. We're not going to look at who's won the most FA Cups and all that. this is where I'm going to get you to actually dial it down trophies-wise. And it's going to lead on to the next topic, right? The periods of dominant success both clubs have had, right? You would necessarily say this is Chelsea's dominance from 2004 until whenever it's going to last, probably when Ivanovic decides, I'm no longer the sugar daddy. I'm going to walk away, which he's entitled to. And Arsenal
When
had...
you do, you're screwed.
And Arsenal had the 1991, I think it was, when you went unbeaten and you won the league. We didn't go fully unbeaten, but you still won it. You also had when you tore the league off Liverpool. To be fair, that's funny.
Best moment ever.
Mm-hmm. You've also had the dominance when Wenger came in, which was 96, and obviously that kicked off with the first title in 98, and then obviously it culminated with the 05 FA Cup final, which we're not even going to discuss because it's tragic. But
Train light robbery.
I know, but that just sums up just how horrible you guys really are. That you had to beat us on penalties. You couldn't do this in 90 minutes. But this is where it gets really where it gets dials down. Per your trophies, periods of dominance and success. For you guys, who has had and this is where it's going to define as bigger, who has had the absolute best period of dominance that will establish one club bigger than the other?
Can I go first on this one?
You may have the honour.
Right. I think it's all in agreement. I naturally hope so. Since 04, Chelsea are on the rise. They went on the rise, they got up, and they're still on the rise. I think it's fair to say that Chelsea are still going. We're still top. And it doesn't seem to be any sign of easing off. Yes, there's patches here and there in between the period from 04 to now. There's no debate. Arsenal have, like you said, the Invincibles, the 90s, all that crack back in the past, pre-war, post-war. Like, there's periods. Both clubs have their sides. I think until Chelsea start to drop and stay dropped consistent, I think that's when we can declare the 04 to whatever time that happens. I think that's when we can stop that period of success. But until then, I think Chelsea are still on the rise, still going strong. Arsenal, as William said, they're on a rebuild. How long that will last, God knows. Can you just write off a rebuild? Depending on how long that rebuild is. If it goes on for any more than another few years, you can't declare it a rebuild. You can declare a period of absolute atrociousness. And every club does go through it, naturally enough. It's a shame to see clubs do so bad unless you have a complete hatred for them. But, it's fair to say that as of now, Chelsea are they've up and come. They're still there and they're staying. There's no sign, whereas Arsenal are rebuilding and are still rebuilding, are going to be rebuilding for another few years.
William, over to you.
I ain't going to disagree too much with what you said there. It's pretty much mostly true. All my points on the periods or how we sustained it throughout time, there's no doubt, like, we're going on to our longest stage. It's harder and harder to rebuild nowadays with the amount of money that is in football and how the teams around you are able to spend bigger. And that's why I get so frustrated in a way looking back at that stage in 06, because that was such a key turning point. You look at it now, like, look at the amount of millions and millions and millions you'd have to spend to get a world-class team now, or at least do it smartly. Mm-hmm. Like, we are still spending a lot. We're one of the biggest spenders at the moment, but it's still not working for us. It's hard exactly to put into words. There's no doubt that at the moment, sure, look at it, since the 2000s, Chelsea have the most amount of silverware in the Premier League. They're a team on the rise. That rise will fall eventually. It's just when it does. I'm sure it's when Abramovich sells up, because all the money that he's put into the club will be owed back to him. and then you're screwed.
Just to touch on that, money does involve, and the way the markets are going today, the inflation, it is madness. But where money does come into it, like I said at the start, Arsenal are not shy of a few quid. We spent ridiculous money on, be honest, flop players you didn't think would do so well. Money that could have been spent more wisely. You could have got better players for cheaper or better players for the same amount. So money does play a factor in the up and coming of a club or the success of a club. I do understand that, but it doesn't define a club. So it doesn't. There's been plenty of clubs there with pittance in comparison to other clubs and have done well and done successful where money wasn't the main factor. They just had the brains to get the players in that will fit in their team, work well for the club, and knew that we're going to develop into world-class players. Where players that were bought for half, next to nothing, that are worth 10 times what they turned out to be.
Yeah, you say that now, but how many teams have actually done that? I can only name one. Leicester. Leicester, the only team to have won the league that did it. Other than that, nobody else has. It's all
Leicester a brilliant example.
Rejuvenated through money into their squad depth and ability.
You could see United's 95-96 team.
But that's back in the 90s. Like, if I'm working since 06.
Okay, if you're doing since 06, I was just putting out there, you could potentially say the Man United team was 95-96.
The thing is,
back then it was so much easier.
But Leicester are a brilliant example, though. They've had players. Leicester are a brilliant example. They've had players that wouldn't have been looked at, wouldn't have even been thought about, wouldn't have been even a conversation. And look, them players have left that club, been bought for 10, 20 times on what they were bought by Leicester for. Gone on to do amazing. So money does a factor in, but like Leicester as an example, it's not everything.
It does
Clubs
depend
can
on
have
how you use it.
But it's an anomaly.
Yeah. There is so much.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. But you've spent millions on players this year.
This year we've had to as well. Like we have to spend millions in order to try and get back out of what was an absolutely atrocious management by the top.
But where I'm coming from is, if someone's asking price is millions, doesn't exactly class them as a top player. Just because Pepe was he spent 72 million.
72 million.
Just because he has that price tag on him doesn't mean he's worth 72 million. Do you know what I mean? At the time, it might have been, this lad has promise, pay 72 million, it'll come back to us. He was a flop. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he's still going, like he'll get something out of him, but he's not worth 72 million. Do you know what I mean? I guarantee you there's players that are worth a fraction of that price that are better than him. There surely is better players out there that are for a fraction of the price.
Same can be said for Chelsea when it comes as an example.
Exactly.
So you've got that. But he does have factors on both grounds. I'm just going to read a few comments. One here I actually do think is wholeheartedly. I actually do agree. The Mourinho back-to-back team is probably the hardest team to beat the Premiership has ever seen. It was a completely different way.
That's a debate. That is a debate.
It was a very difficult time for dealing with it in terms of like how could you deal with it. I mean, we finally beat them in the second season.
You still have the record of the fewest conceded goals in the Premier League. Conceded only like 15 that season.
15 goals.
I think that plays into how our teams have changed football. I think that's where that plays into.
It does, which we'll be coming on to very shortly. Yep, which is we'll be coming on to that bit in just a minute. I'm just going to read a few other comments. Ireland has some Arsenal and Chelsea fans. You guys must be outnumbered by United and Liverpool. Well, easily outnumbered.
And don't forget to add in also, strangely enough, they may not be very vocal, but there are too many Leeds fans too.
Nobody really pays attention. There's also a fair few amount of comments about cheese and Dean going, well, he said this. Everyone, I'll let you have free rein, Bob. I'll let you have free rein.
Not a funny fact, but one because I was looking up. It was back in the history one.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea have the history of the most amount of the yellow cards in the Premier League, and Arsenal have the history of the most amount of red cards in the Premier League.
Tony's
there's
never
an
done
I didn't know that now.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious. We have like 99 red cards, and Chelsea have like on a lot more yellow cards.
Nine times out of 10, probably Craig Pawson or Anthony Taylor was managing. Who knows? Maybe Mike the Bean. But anyway, we are going to move on to the impact of football, and I'm going to narrow it down on the sense of Arsenal had prolonged periods of dominance. But if you actually think about Arsenal in terms of why they're the bigger club, from looking in, you think of one period, you think of 97, 98 to 04 or 05, and that's it. That's where you think narrow it down. That is the main period that you look at. For Chelsea, I said it before we went live, I would say roughly 04 up to maybe 2015, but you've still got the dominance afterwards. It was that 10-year period where it was more than one trophy a season when they were actually winning things. After that, it was like the odd season where they may have won two, but it was mostly one trophy. But it's still accumulating success, so we're not going to overlook that. But in terms of impact on football, who has had the bigger impact? I'm going to open this up to live chat as well, because the live chat are going to decide very shortly who is the bigger club, as well as you guys, although that's going to be funny when I see you two arguing. Who has the bigger impact in that period of dominance?
I think the period does matter. I think football, even in recent times, the past 20 years, today's football is completely different than the football that were played 10, 20 years ago. Like, tactics-wise, I think it does come down to players, managers, how they set up a team, how they play on the ball, what way they dictate the game. It does really matter a lot. If you want to look at the Jose Mourinho's period, if you want to look at Tuchel, the way he plays ball, I feel like that's a big important factor. Arsenal have the Invincibles. I mean, like, back then it was a lot tougher, a lot hard hitting. You got away with a lot more than compared to nowadays. It's a lot more flamboyant, a lot more skilled, speed. Whereas back then you had the likes of the Roy Keane, Vieira's, John Terry's. It was a lot more hard hitting. It was a lot more physical game. I think it does more come down to the managers, where they set out a team and how they coach and train both sides. So it does depend on what factor you're looking at from. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair. William?
That's fair, even though he says, like, to be fair, yeah, football was more physical, but however, back then we didn't try to be out-physical them entirely. We did try to be a lot more skillful, and we'd usually be the ones that would get kicked around the pitch, and that's where we got the stigma that Arsenal are a soft team from. That's where it originally came from. If I'm looking at the impact of football, you see, and again, I know Evan said before, the 30s and stuff don't matter. I'll always go back to Herbert Chapman first, because in my opinion, he is the biggest manager Arsenal has ever had. And I know everyone will be surprised with that one, but just what he did to bring into football.
No disrespect to Wenger, though.
No disrespect to Wenger. I'd say, like, Chapman's here, Wenger's here. But, like, Chapman changed the football inside by bringing in a brand new formation, which was known as the WM formation. So you can imagine that's 3-2-2-1.
You're getting there.
Whatever. It's a W and an M on top of each other. But on top of that, he also, where you can say Chelsea were named after an area, Herbert Chapman made an area named after our football club, where you got the tube station changed to Arsenal from whatever it was known back then. And he made an impact on society of the local area into football and made the area a bit more known into that. Then you've got Arsene Wenger, who came in. I mean, it's well known Arsene Wenger was the manager that brought in nutrition into every team.
Hold on, can I just butt in here?
Of course you can.
Are we talking about how the club or the manager impacted football?
You can use both. You can use both.
You can use both.
Fair, right.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have Mourinho and stuff.
You
like,
use both in
we've got Wenger then, who is well known to bring in nutrition, who was the first manager to change the entire Arsenal players' diets, and you saw what that done, and then other teams saw that and were like, oh shit, we're going to have to bring nutrition into our game, and it's just made the league a whole lot healthier, a whole lot stronger, and it made it better. Also, in terms of tactics, he was so kind of very good with tactics that he made Sir Alex Ferguson, the best manager ever, change from his, and everyone in England's preferred, like 4-4-2, to have to put 3 players in midfield in order to deal with Arsenal's pressure and sometimes to beat us.
It's also because of Mourinho as well. Credit to both sides.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, there's a reason they call Mourinho the special one, the chosen one. Do you know what I mean? It does base down to, if you want to go to managers, there's no denying it. Jose, not just in the Premier League, but in other leagues he's been in, where he goes, he's a force to be reckoned with. He changes teams, he brings them from mediocre, all right, okay, to, oh my God, they're a serious force to be reckoned with. Mourinho, the reason Spurs, I think when he was at Spurs, his style, and like I said, the era does depend, come in a lot. Mourinho's style of football for that era, it's not going to work. Same way Wenger style or Fergie style, it's Mourinho style just doesn't work in today's age. It doesn't. So it doesn't. We can all agree on that. It doesn't stand to the style of football that's being played nowadays. These comments.
Yeah, it is true though. It is true.
But back in that era, because it is, as you said, over a time period. Back in that era, Mourinho, he done something to the Premier League that, for him to be called the special one, the chosen one, to be a force to be reckoned with, no matter where he goes, not just the Premier League, no matter where he goes, it's something. I can't even get words out of my mouth. It's as I say, it's special. It is special. You can chat about this manager, that manager, Tuchel, Conte, all that if you want, but for what Mourinho done for Chelsea, to leave and then come back again and do the same thing for him, it's different gravy. Like you can't argue. And I feel like it's had to turn into a debate of managers, but managers do impact a lot. It's not just 11 men on a field kicking the ball around.
No.
Tactics do come into it.
That's the thing. Like, if you're looking at your team, you're probably gonna look at how the manager impacts that team and their style of play and how they do it. And you can look at every team's differently. Like, if you look back at the early 90s, we had Georgie Graham, who set out one way of style where we were 1-0 to the Arsenal, very hard to break down, very Mourinho-esque in a way. But then you go to Arsene Wenger and he's very flamboyant. He wants everyone to attack. It's just different, and how it impacts. It's weird how it impacts football. And the main reason why I'll always go back to Chapman is he didn't just impact football. He impacted our local area in terms of changing that tube station to Arsenal and building up the area. So his legacy builds even bigger than football itself.
I feel like back then managers were held in high regard. They don't get sacked every 6 months. If a team is doing bad, managers were held in such high regard. They stayed on for longer periods of time. They impacted more on the team and the club. They were held higher than what they are held today. Managers today, in today's society, managers are kicked out, replaced like that. Back in the day, managers were the final say, the final word, whatever the manager says. But nowadays, it's all board direct managers. If you don't win this, you're gone. Good luck. It's easy to get another person in to replace you. Managers are a dime a dozen. Do you know what I mean? It is a shame, and I always hate that you don't see managers go on for 10-year period span over a club, 20 years. Do you know what I mean? We don't get the likes of Wenger, Fergie. It's a shame to see.
The closest we're going to get, and it's a different level of a club. But as of now, Sean Dyche is now 9 years as the Burnley manager.
Exactly, and that's considered an absolute achievement, and it is achievement in itself. But it's a rarity. You will never see in modern day football and in future football. You'll never see that again.
I mean, other than him, who is the longest one? Would it be David Moyes at West Ham?
Moyes was 2004.
4 or 5 years.
Do you
Yeah,
think
no,
Moyes was
I mean at this current moment, as in manager's longest at the club.
longest? I think
there aren't.
David Moyes had. I think David Moyes joined in 2004, and he managed until 2013. That's 8 years.
Yeah,
9 years. Sorry, same as
Yeah.
Dyche, so 9 years. I think Eddie Howe had 5 or 6 at
5, 6.
Bournemouth
Yeah,
before he lost his job. So there are levels of who stayed what, and then obviously you've got, and then you've already got the managers who go to Fulham or whatever, and they get sacked within 10 minutes of getting the job.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, and it's a shame to see that stuff like that happen. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a rarity that we get to see the likes of a 9-year span. And I feel like the period William was talking about, managers were held in more of a high regard, and I feel like that's why he had such an impact on the club and the area around him. It was just the period that was in. Do you know what I mean? I feel like if we could stay at that time in that period, I feel like Chelsea managers, Jose, Wenger, they would have like the same impact. Ferguson had the same impact. If it was back then, they would have had 10 times the impact.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Managers were just held higher regards in that period of time, and I feel like that's why where William is bringing up that point, whereas he done so much for the community and the club itself, because
the bad thing is he was only there for like 5 years. Chapman. I know 5 years is a long time, but Jurgen Klopp's been at Liverpool 6 years.
Mm-hmm. There's that longevity of certain managers in their period of time. This is Guardiola's 5th year as a manager at Man City. This is his 5th year as well. So you've got that. Some managers are lucky they're going to get some time. Some managers are going to get the boot in their P45. Maybe a little bit Theresa May style by a comedian, who knows. But before we move on to the combined 11 of both clubs, and it's purely Premier League only, I am just going to come down to the sense of like the impact on football, and I'm going to do the last bit of the impact, which is in terms of management. I know you've already said Chapman, and I respect that, and I think that's a very fair comment. Evans obviously went for Mourinho.
Yeah. Well, I could argue Tuchel as well. Like
you could. I could,
but I feel like Mourinho had more of an impact.
You need another year.
I give Tuchel another few years, like William said. I think Mourinho is my safe bet to go with.
Yeah. But now I'm going to ask you, based on ownership from your periods of dominance. So this is now Abramovich versus, I'm not even sure who the Arsenal owners were at the time of like the dominance I mentioned before. I've got no idea.
I actually don't.
But in terms of just like ownership and how the impact they had by actually delivering success, which owners actually had the biggest impact?
I think that's obvious.
Yeah,
I think that is obvious.
I just want to hear it.
Abramovich changed the game. Like he brought this, just the change in terms of wanting this level of success and not accepting any lower. Which, I mean, you can give credit to him in his own way for that, but he's done anything and everything he can to succeed, and I suppose that's perfect from what you want in an owner.
And closing, and this is directly towards William, if Arsenal had not moved to the Emirates, they had stayed at Highbury, but they'd actually made a few renovations just to keep up a little bit like the modern.
Yeah, if they increased capacity, put new stands in. Say.
If they had just done a little bit of work on it, where do you think Arsenal would have been had they had not moved to the Emirates, which, as was quoted then, moving so we can compete with the big boys, which is I've said it before to you, I think is the most hypocritical statement I've ever heard, because you were already competing with the big boys at the time.
Yeah.
You were spanking Real Madrid, first English team to win at the Bernabeu. That never happened before. Arsenal did that. You went the Champions League that season. You didn't concede a single goal until the final. You did all that. So what if
credit where credit's due? Like,
yeah, exactly. That season, and even before that, if you hadn't moved to Highbury, where do you think Arsenal could have been compared to the dominance that Abramovich has brought with, quote unquote, his billions?
I think we could have challenged an awful lot more. I think we'd have been up there with ye in terms of what we could have done. because the money we spent on the stadium, we could have spent it replacing players like Henry, who had to leave. Now, you're never going to fully replace them, which nobody was able to do. But we would have at least been able to get a better quality player that would have done a better job and been able to sustain our spine for a bit longer, that we can add in extra pieces here and there from our academy and elsewhere.
Can I just say, I just want to make this clear. Are you basing the main fault on your financial situation of Arsenal's downfall? Or am I wrong in saying that?
It's not entirely on the Emirates, but it is 90% wise. It put us at such a strong disadvantage that we still haven't recovered, and you're looking 15 years later.
Because if that's the case, I'd like to bring it back to a point where the money you did have, it would have came down to investing it wisely.
The thing is, you can.
It brings back to my point of money is not everything.
But you've got to invest in order to win a league title. You've got to invest in a certain level of quality, which usually costs a lot more money. Would you agree?
It brings me back to my point of Leicester. Didn't spend a whole lot of money on that 2016 squad.
To which I say is an anomaly. Again, it's only happened once. You look at the players that ye had and how ye invested, a mix of wisely, but ye still invested at a certain level. Whereas we couldn't. If we showed, say, we wanted a certain player that looked this good, ye would just literally, not just ye, Man City, once they got taken over, or say United would come in and say, oh, we'll offer you 100k more in terms of your wages. In which case, where are you going to go when we can't up it?
And that's understandable, and that's what I said. But in terms of if money didn't come into account, if Arsenal could offer the same thing Chelsea and City and United and Liverpool could offer, do you think them players are going to go to Arsenal?
They would have.
Anyway,
we had reached the Champions League final in 2006. We were at that level. You're going to continue. You see the likes of Henry, the likes of Pires, all these types of Vieiras, all these, even the Fabregas coming through, even the young players coming through. You're looking at Arsenal and you're thinking, wow, this is a great club. They're still going places that if they want to invest in me, yes, I'll still come. We would have been still at that level. Instead, we had to try and rebuild at a less structural, at a less level where we didn't have the finances to rebuild entirely fully. But at the same time, it's also bad management in some areas in terms of the recruitment phase, which also happens once David Dean left.
I think as a player going to a new club, I think the focus shouldn't be on where they are now or where they were last season. It should be my future, the club's future. Where will the club be at this time? Where will I be at this time? I don't think
if you're going back to 2006, we were literally just in the Champions League final. You're looking and you're saying, yeah, they're going to be challenging for Champions Leagues for years, because why aren't they? They're just in the Champions League final. Like if I was to say to you, in 1 or 2 years, you're not going to be anywhere near it, you'd be like, what? You just won the Champions League. You can't imagine that type of a drop-off until it actually happens.
No one saw it coming. The Arsenal job where they won
and it was a miracle that Wenger kept us up there.
And that's actually one thing. I think the man needs more praise. I think Wenger needs more praise.
He's slowly getting it. He is slowly getting it. But it was time for him to go when it was time to go.
The reason he's slowly getting it is because look at the state of Arsenal are now.
But that's
the only reason
that was
at the time Wenger was on the way out.
Well.
At the time when Wenger was on the way out, the slander, the abuse, the absolute shame that Arsenal fans brought to themselves and their club to abuse the man in the way that he did and how he got treated. Is looking back on it now, and you think you'd beg for Wenger.
You say that, but you've got to remember, Wenger's the type of person that signed Mustafi over Virgil van Dijk.
At the time, yeah.
Oh no! At the time,
looking back at it, it's understandable. But it's easy to say, "Oh, we should have done this. We should have done it." It's easy to say that.
2 seconds.
It's easy.
To the toilet.
No
Yep.
hassle. It's easy
Take
to
as long as you need.
it's easy
Sitting
to
in the
say it's easy to point out your mistakes once they're made.
Yes.
Like that's understandable. Do you know what I mean? It
Mhm.
is harder to see a mistake before it happens. So I feel like decision making it's a risk at the time, and it's easy to identify the bad ones and the good ones looking back on them. So
I think that's fair. And whilst we are waiting on for the Mr. Piddle, and whilst we're waiting on William, I think from a standpoint is each club have had their relative success. Each club has a history that they rightfully have deserved. They've accumulated the trophies. They've had periods of dominance and success over the years that they have rightfully worked for and deserve it. The fan base is astronomical. Unless you're an absolute delusional tosspot, then I really don't care. And that includes any fan base, really. Like, there are some delusional tosspots everywhere. But the relative question is, before we come on to a combined 11, organised by yourselves. You can do it yourselves. You can agree with it, or you can just present, and we'll let the live chat decide who does it better. The question is tonight: who's the bigger club? Is it Arsenal? Is it Chelsea? I'm going to come through the live. Like, for those that are watching, I will let you guys do it, and I will give you guys each. We are now at 1 minute 41. I'm keeping an eye on it. I will give you each 2 minutes to present why you think you're the bigger club, and then we'll narrow it. But overall, before we get to that, it is please hit a like, smash a like on the stream. Please hit the share button. Please hit subscribe. Give us a follow on Weekly Armchair on Twitter as well, which is a joy. We also have a new Twitch channel open, which we will be starting a few streams on that. I am going to be absolutely battering it on FIFA. Keane's put me in charge, although to be fair, he's probably going to be chatting. He wants me out within a week, even though I'm winning everything, because it's Keane, and we all know Keane's all right. But the question is simple. Who is the bigger club? And this time, I'm going to put myself on mute. I will then dictate one at a time. I will switch your screens. I'm going to put one of these on each full screens. You will have the full screen to yourself about why you think you are the biggest club. And I am going to start with a very smug but deservedly so Chelsea fan. So, William, if you wouldn't mind going on mute, please. And I will also go on it. Evan, if I can get on to your cell. If it doesn't let me do full screen, just you have it to yourself.
Yeah, I should just leave it at this. I can talk away like
Go.
Like, the history is there, right? You can argue it's not as long as period as Arsenal's or any other clubs, but when does history become history? We have the past 20, 30 years. It's there. You can't deny it. Looking into the future, the club is on the rise. The club is still on the rise. It's going to stay a big club until, like William has stated, Roman pulls out. But as it is now, we're there. We're there to stay. We're up. We're already up. We have the history. We've had the more dominant side in recent years. We're the biggest London threat to come out in recent years. I think to look at a club and think, oh, we had this, we had that, history this, history that. Okay, back then you were the bigger club, but now you're not the bigger club. Arsenal are not the bigger club now. So you can't base everything off history. As it is now, Chelsea are a bigger club than Arsenal. As simple as. Because if it was based on history, if you want to go history, like I said at the start, Tottenham should be involved. It's just that simple. And for Tottenham to be in this conversation now, you'd laugh at it. Yes. But as of now, Chelsea are the bigger side. And it's just that simple. Chelsea are a bigger club. Fan base, you might have us. Past trophies, you might have us. But as of now, the emphasis is on Chelsea. You think London, you think Chelsea, you think blue. It's just that simple.
So we don't think red and blue, we don't think Crystal Palace, we don't think Brentford, we just think Chelsea.
Sure, look, if you want to put them in, you can,
Viva
you can put in. Along with Arsenal, you can put in other mid-table teams, but as of now, top team is Chelsea.
Definitively spoken, and I will also say so. Currently, it is 1-1. And the reason I say it's 1-1 is because Dean has went at the moment currently Chelsea, but if you're talking overall, we have to say Arsenal. So I am de facto giving that to Arsenal. So 1-1. I'm going to mute you, Evan, and I'm going to give it all to William to counteract. And then after that, the live chat are going to define your candy asses. Who is the bigger club? William, the floor is yours.
The fact is, when I'm looking at everything, Evan says, when does history become history? You've got to look when you're looking at the biggest club in London, the entire history of a club, not just the last 20 years. Yes, in the last 20 years, Chelsea have become a better club. However, overall, we have become the bigger side. We have more league titles and we have more domestic trophies. Yes, they may have more European trophies, which is unfortunate. However, we've done it over a longer period in time. Things over the last few years haven't gone exactly as planned. However, if you look at it in head-to-head finals, Arsenal have still won 3 finals against Chelsea's 2 when the 2 have come up against each other. If you're looking at it, who is the bigger side? They have more fans. However, we have more fans to actually go to the games. We have the most amount of FA Cups in the history. We're the first team to attend leagues, something Chelsea still haven't reached to this day. And overall, personally, I feel like we are a bigger team as we have more achievements and we have done more for the game in terms of what managers have brought, in terms of Arsene Wenger bringing nutrition, in terms of Chapman in bringing in the WM formation and changing a tube station to our own team name. Whereas Chelsea have only brought in Abramovich, who brought in more money and a ruthless agenda. And there is also other fans that they've brought in that are a bit more negative, in my opinion. And that's my opinion, that we are still the bigger club at the moment.
Can I just say something? Actually, just real quick. If we're talking about history, can we talk about future?
If you wish, but we all know both well, your clubs have no future and Man United will return to the top.
I think it's fair to say
I will find ways to get you both tonight. I will find ways.
I know, we know full well, but if we're talking about history, shouldn't present and future come into the factor as well? Is that not fair to say?
Naturally. Present your case.
So, present, I think it's fairly obvious. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea are the dominant side, and there's no denying that. If you want to say your few
if you want to look at the last 5 fixtures between Arsenal and Chelsea, what's the record?
Thank you, Mr. Beauty.
We did the double over you last season. Yes, you beaten us once this season, but we did still do the double over you last season.
But if you want to go off match per match, right, that's fair enough. But overall, season by season, year by year, we're the dominant side, and there's no denying that Chelsea have been the dominant side for the past 20 years. If you want to go even more recent, it's in present day, because I'm on about the present, Chelsea are still the bigger side. Chelsea are still the more dominant side. Now, going on to the future part of it, it's evident to say that the pendulum Chelsea are moving towards and the pendulum Arsenal are moving towards, if they keep going on the track that they're currently on, Chelsea are still going to be the more dominant side. Now, you can say in the future it's hard to predict this, it's hard to predict that, and that's a fair argument. You can say Arsenal could do this and do that, and Chelsea, this could happen to Chelsea, this could happen to Chelsea, but currently standing a good, educated guess, and no disrespect, we're smart fellows, like, we're smart lads. You can genuinely give an educated guess on where teams are going to end up in future seasons and how they're going to perform. Would that not be fair to say?
Very fair.
You can say about this season maybe, but you can't predict next season because anything could happen.
And that's true. And like I said, there's variables. There is variables, but an educated guess. Everyone can give an educated guess. Do you know what I mean?
You say that, but if you were to say that about 3 years ago, Derby County would be bottom of the league with a minus points, you wouldn't have been able to predict that when they were aiming for playoffs.
But that's what I'm saying. And there is the likes of Leicester's 5,000 to 1 win Champions League. There is all that. Like I said, there is variables, but an educated guess, you can predict City will do well. You can predict Chelsea will do well. You can predict United can do well. Do you know what I mean? Logic, like, do you know, stats and statistics. You can argue. Do you know? So I just think going off that basis, future-wise, Chelsea are going to top Arsenal. And present day-wise, Chelsea are top Arsenal. If you want to go with history, there's an argument there. Obviously, your longer period for Arsenal, all that crack, more trophies, you had one. So, it's there. Dean's on the Melbourne tonight.
He's definitely got you there, eh? So I guess we can all say you're still traveling through different dimensions. I'm going to put on a limb. I am the moderator, as you know. I have not once given my opinion tonight. I've just slated both your clubs because we both know my club's bigger than both of yours combined.
I wouldn't say combined, but it is the biggest team.
I think it's fair to say that I'd rather not a United fan. I'd probably rather a deluded Liverpool fan than a United fan tonight. But beggars can't be choosers.
No one wants to be Liverpool fans, not even Liverpool fans, so behave yourself. If I had to put it, I would say the bigger club overall is Arsenal, right? However, and this is why I've actually tipped the winner of tonight's debate, is right there.
Yes!
And I've been...
Yes!
Don't worry, don't get in your big head that you've won this by a landslide.
Hold on. Let me try not to look smug.
I've heard that before from you.
I just try not to look smug right now.
I would say overall Arsenal are the bigger club. And it is purely, Williams made it relevant tonight in terms of it's not just a history, it's about what they've done over those periods of time. It has been consistently relevant. It's only in recent years where they've been struggling to do it because all they've had to do is win FA Cups to at least try and keep in the conversation to avoid becoming a Spurs, for example, who we're not including tonight because they haven't had much since 61 or even the 80s when they won a trophy. They won the UEFA Cup in the 80s. They still haven't done anything relatively since. So they're realistically, in all fairness to a Spurs fan, you ain't in the mix. No disrespect. You just aren't. It's between these two. It's between Chelsea and Arsenal. If you had to put long periods of success, dominance, eras, Arsenal by a mile have more to their history. That's a fact. But this is where things change, and this is why I think right now Chelsea are bigger in terms of right now. Is they have, even though they had little bits of like success in the 90s, it wasn't overly successful because it was Man United and Arsenal.
In comparison, yeah.
In fair comparison, yes, they were still winning at least something there. And then when it hit 2004, the money came in and it boomed, skyrocketed. They went on to be the most successful team of the last 20 years. And they've done that considerably. So at the moment, biggest club. At this moment in time, the biggest club is Chelsea. Overall, until a few factors change, Arsenal will still be the biggest club in London. Unbiased opinion from the moderator.
And can I just ask William, if William agrees with you, what are them factors? Is it trophies or the amount of time?
William?
To be fair, it's usually what defines a bigger club is how much silverware you have in your trophy cabinet. That's why Spurs ain't in it, because they haven't won a trophy in like 11 years and they haven't won a league in 30 odd years. Let's be brutally honest. That's where it mostly goes. But you just haven't bridged that gap yet. But you're only like 1 or 2 more league titles away from it.
Right, and just say, and a point of tonight was fan base. Say if our fan base skyrockets, I mean, it absolutely just blows up internationally and domestic.
Your fan base is going to skyrocket with success. That's just a genuine fact, not just to call them glory hunters, but because younger fans are going to see this and want to.
But let's just say in a few years' time, we pass out Arsenal by a long shot. Does that go towards our biggest club in London? But regardless of silverware, does that count to us?
I don't feel as much.
But it was a point tonight, though. If it's not credible,
yeah.
Why
But
was it a point tonight,
I've already said that you have 11 million more fans, and we just have more fans to show up to the stadium.
Yeah, no, I agree. Domestically, I'll give it to you. Obviously, internationally, there's
Well,
not a comparison.
the main reason why it counts partly is because without fans, there is no proper football. I think
Yeah,
we
but
learned
say
that from the pandemic, but
domestically, your fan base, supporters start not going to games. Chelsea starts selling out the stadium. Does that count as biggest club in London?
well, it has a bearing on it. Yeah, obviously,
Right.
if your club if you ain't going up to matches, then I mean, isn't that one of the main reasons why Man City aren't a big club at the moment?
They're not a big club.
Because they
That's
can't
fair.
get the
I
fans
just
going
wanted
to the
to,
stadium.
just want to make that. I just wanted to make that point to see where you were standing at.
Yeah,
It will always be a factor in my eye. It will always be a fair factor.
it'll always have points, but I don't think you'll
to be
much
fair, I'm
see
currently
any of our
sitting-
fans not.
To be fair, if you really want to discuss Man City, right? I'm holding Man City right now.
Downfall of
So-
Man City. Aguero went. That's the downfall.
The downfall was a bit more than that. A little bit more than that. It was when you started selling your tickets on Hotel Trivago. But this is where it's downline. It is fair opinion. It is who is bigger. Is it Chelsea or Arsenal? I've narrowed it down in my opinion of the right now. It's Chelsea. Overall, until certain things change, it's Arsenal. Like in terms of certain factors, some things change, and that can happen. Football, as we've already had from Bath Time Vaughan tonight, he made a very fair comment. It was absolutely true. Clubs have their cycles. And I know that full well. My club went 26 years to win the league title. We went 31 without winning the European Cup. And we still done more than both your clubs anyway. So that says it all. But we are now coming down to, as we wrap up the show, because we've been going nearly 2 hours tonight, gentlemen, we will be ending the show with a combined 11, either agreed upon, well, that's going to be funny if that happened,
No.
or each of you, I believe, would have a combined 11
Yeah.
prepared.
To be fair, I feel like Evans is going to be probably a little bit better than mine, but I just wanted a few different picks in there.
I think I've recently changed halfway through this podcast. I've changed a position.
Okay.
It'll be funny to see William's reaction, but let's see how it goes.
We will start off
We'll
then.
see. Yeah.
Combined 11, please, Evan. We'll start with you.
Oh, you want to go with me? All right. I think it's fairly obvious. Keeper it has to be Czech. Play for both sides. Most clean sheets in Premier League. It has to be Czech. I know there is an argument there.
Because of his decline, I didn't want to put him in because of his decline at Arsenal.
And that's fair enough, but you can't just look at his time at Arsenal. It's
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Premier League in general. His time at Chelsea, he's a club legend. He did do a good bit for Arsenal. In fairness, now he did do a good bit for Arsenal. You can't deny that. But I think Czech has to win. True. I think right back. I think the only man is Ivanovic. Don't mention Lee Dixon to me, or you can if you want. if you want, do not. We've had this in the group chat before the stream started. Do not mention Lee Dixon. I'm actually logging off if you mention Lee Dixon to me. It's just that simple.
I think you would have said Lauren before Lee Dixon.
Yeah,
yeah.
To be fair, that's
a fair point, but I think
no.
Ivanovic has done a lot more.
No one in the right set of mind says Lee Dixon. Not even Lee Dixon says Lee Dixon.
Fair enough, so. Because I remember William was saying, "Oh yeah, I'll surprise you with my one," and I just, for some reason, Lee Dixon just came into my mind when he said, "I'm going to shock you all with my picks." I was like, "Do not mention Lee Dixon. Do not mention him."
Absolutely. Anyway, your centre back parents, please. Sorry.
JT. I mean, has to be in there. Do you know what I mean? You can't deny that. JT is in there. It's simple
not WKD Blue.
Oh, Jesus, no way. John Terry is when you think Chelsea, you think like the Czech, John Terry, Lampard, Drogba. Do you know what I mean? He is there. He's a club legend. He's a Premier League legend. Other centre back, Campbell. It has to be Campbell. If you want to argue anyone else, be my guest, but I'm giving that to Arsenal. It's just that simple. Left back, I think it's fairly obvious again. I think this whole combined 11 would be fairly obvious. Well, I thought it was anyway. But left back, Ashley Cole, guaranteed done wonders for both clubs. Centre of the field, Lampard.
Okay.
I think Chelsea has to get a foot in there with Lampard, top goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? He has to be put in there. He's in the argument of Gerrard, Scholes. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously going to be in this combined 11. It's a guaranteed. The other centre back.
Centre midfield.
No, Lampard. Simple as. The other centre back. Now,
Midfielder.
Do you want, or sorry, the other midfielder, the other centre mid? Do you want to hear my original, or do you want to hear who I have in there now?
I want your original, then replacement, because I want to hear your opinion on this.
So I had Vieira. Obviously, he's going like absolute superstar. So he was.
Okay.
Absolute superstar back in his era. But who I have in there now and who I completely overlooked, and I don't know why I overlooked, but I feel like I can't wait for this reaction. But player who played for both clubs, Cesc Fabregas. And I feel like he deserves it. I feel like he really deserves a shout. He's an absolute beast. Premier League, outside Premier League, you can't deny it. If you want to go based off his Premier League performance alone, his partnership with Diego Costa was just sick. It was just sick. He done his time at Arsenal. He done what he could, but moved on to Spain. He was sick of Spain. Obviously, and Chelsea, just nasty. He was top class. He was top class. Okay. The sides, Hazard has to be in there, 100%. Right mid, William. Move on to I'm only messing. Perez. Some crack by putting William, wasn't it? Perez, and then it speaks for itself. Like, do you know what I mean? The team does speak for itself, and then I had Henry and Drogba up top. You can argue Bergkamp if you want, be my guest, but I'm not budging on Drogba. He's my absolute all-time favorite player to play the game in the first place. He is the same birthday as me. Fun fact, the 11th of March.
5 days after mine.
He's the whole reason like I fell in love with Chelsea. Like it's just amazing, like to see him play and to perform. And I'm glad that I got to see him play at Stamford Bridge. Henry, that's not debatable. There's no debating Henry, so there's not. I think you both agree with me on that. Did I say left mid? I did.
Yeah.
Hazard. Yeah. I think. Do you know what I mean? Go off the 4-4-2. I thought it'd be fairly straightforward, but when William was texting the group chat saying he'll shock us, I can't see much of the debate. You can say the keeper, fair enough if you want. If you want to put in Vieira instead of Fabregas, fair enough. If you want to argue Bergkamp, you can argue him over Henry, but I'm not budging on Drogba. I'll tell you that now.
You might be surprised with my team anyway. Let's put it this way.
So we've heard Evan's team, which we will come back to the end. We'll refresh it in a minute. Before we come to Williams' team, I just want to say this is brilliant. Cesc done more for Arsenal than Chelsea. We've seen that. Well, he did get hiding after he threw a bit of pizza. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, William,
Right.
Combined 11, please.
In goal, I said I didn't put Cech in because of his decline at Arsenal, but also because this goalkeeper made one of the best saves I have ever seen in an FA Cup game, David Seaman. David Seaman is just one of those goalkeepers that just his ability defies words. Unless you properly watch him, you cannot say how good of a keeper he actually was. And it's a bit mental how we went unbeaten the year after we got rid of him, but
strange, really, because you had a better goalkeeper as well.
Seaman was a better goalie than Lehmann,
Hands down.
whatever way you want to say it, hands down.
Lehmann, yeah, No one really cares because he's a dick anyway.
My love for Seaman. Anyway, but,
Sorry, but it is true what he's done in recent
William loves
years.
Seaman.
Anyway,
He said that. There's no coming back to it.
yeah, I know. That's why I paused. Right. At right back, I'd make a case for Lauren, but I put down Ivanovic. To be honest, I think Ivanovic is one of those right backs that was just a shame his legs went towards the very, very end, but he was just solid from the time he was in there. Now, my centre back pairings, I do have John Terry.
All right,
but I do not have Sol Campbell. I've gone for two proper centre backs, and I'll let you have a guess, Reece.
I'm going to guess the captain of your double winning side in 98 and the double winning side of 0102. I'm going to guess your second centre back is Tony Adams.
Boom. Mr. Arsenal, Tony Adams. Just the quality he had again of being a pure leader. And if he had the two of those together, the leadership in front of him, God, you wouldn't need too much. But there will be someone in front of him that'll do a job as well. Because I tried to do it kind of not statistically, but kind of I'm thinking tactically that I can't just go all gung-ho attack. Like I will need like a more defensive-minded midfielder. Left back
our equivalent of that sort of defender was Stam, even though Stam was amazing like, on the ball and all that. He did all that. Like Adams was great for Arsenal. I can't deny that.
Left back of Ashley Cole.
Hate
the bastard, but like he had talent. Now my two midfielders.
I'll be upset here.
Or not, Evan. You will be upset. I am sorry, you will be upset.
I knew you'd do this to me. I knew you'd do this to me.
Believe it or not, I have Fabregas. Over Vieira.
Which
I
means
have Fabregas over Vieira. Now, if either of you, but I have it then a more defensive-minded midfielder next to him because obviously, Fabregas could come back and defend a little bit, but you need a more defensive midfielder. Who is it, Reece?
Have you got Makalele in your midfield?
The man's so good that they've named the position after him, Claude Makalele.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough.
To get that balance in midfield, it's like you can imagine Makalele sweeping up. Now, Kante ran him close. I'll be brutally honest. Kante runs him very.
In fairness, now picking the teams, I went off individual performance. I didn't go off as a whole team. Do you know what I mean? I went off individual performance. That's why Lampard got in there.
Understandable.
Which is understandable. Fair.
Lampard is a super top.
Yeah, I'm surprised with Fabregas. I'm really surprised with Fabregas.
Right,
I'm not going to lie. But as they say, great minds think alike.
I don't hate him as much as other Arsenal fans do because I don't properly remember when Barcelona players forced the Barcelona jersey on him, and that's why most Arsenal fans hate him. But as much credit as I do, that Chelsea team that him and Diego Costa won the league is one of the most entertaining teams I will ever watch. And that's being brutally honest.
So nasty to
watch.
That's
where I give him credit. Like, I wish we took him back and never had Ozil.
Ozil is a good player in his own right.
Yeah, but
at that period of time, Fabregas all day, every day.
So now I'm going to disappoint you a little bit more now, Evan.
No, you didn't disappoint me too much.
He's about to now.
I don't have
Hazard. Lads. Best of luck. I'm logging off.
I'm going to put in the guy who Gary Neville said was the hardest opponent he ever played against. Mark Overmars. Sorry, but he was next. He was next level. And the status,
just because Gary Neville says it doesn't make it true.
Well, Gary Neville's probably the best right back that the league has seen. And
Thank you. Put some respect on that.
Yeah, you've got him and you've got Ivanovic. Like, those are probably two of the top two. Like, but honestly, I rate Overmars that highly. That look, it's a shame that Barcelona came and took him,
and Petit at the same time, and
they just didn't live up to the heights in Barcelona because what they were at Arsenal was next level.
I'll never watched him play once. Like Overmars play like Man United versus Arsenal in that game. Arsenal lost, but Overmars on the left-hand side, he was quality.
Yeah.
He was a quality player.
And now
Oh, but Hazard
his
is-
partnership on the right midfield is not the player who you're going to think it is, but it's the one that I put in because they said he is the player that made me love Arsenal. And it's not a player that everyone thinks of.
He's
It's
picked
Freddie
Lundberg.
Lumberg.
Ah,
I
two
loved
you-
Freddie
two you were picking.
so much
In
that when I
fairness
was
now,
in primary school, I dyed my hair red.
Yeah,
in,
that's
in
because when you
fairness
said-
now,
when you
well,
said
I
favourite
feel
player,
like I feel like Lumberg for you is what Drogba is to me,
Mm.
but in
It's what Beckham is to
in yeah in the sense of quality of player, I think my
Well,
pick would
Yeah,
my favorite pick player would overcome yours. But I think
Yeah.
Perez.
but at the same time, it's like when Overmars and Lumberg played together, a mix of their pace and their intelligence.
Do you know what?
It was.
If you want to agree, if unless your strike partnership is different, if you don't have Drogba in yours,
No, I have
if you don't-
Drogba and I have
all
Henry.
right.
Don't worry, because Henry
all right,
can
that's-
create and Drogba can finish like a mad bastard, and Henry can
Yeah.
finish like a mad bastard. That partnership would have been
I
scary.
was-
why
I was going
wanted
to-
Henry is why I wanted Henry and Van Nistelrooy as a partnership.
Oh.
when
I was
growing up.
going to say to you, if you didn't have Drogba, if you gave me Drogba, I would give you yeah. I
Well,
think
yeah, fair enough.
we could have compromised on that,
Good
but
compromise, yeah.
but we have
Yeah.
Drogba. You have Drogba already, so if
No,
He
if you
still
want
gets
to-
Overmars, then your words, he still gets Overmars.
if you want to look at
Hazard on the right hand side ahead of Lundberg. but
Hazard,
Lundberg
yeah,
is
if you want to if you want to see me halfway with Hazard,
yeah. Look, I'm not going to deny Hazard's quality, but he was also a bit hit and miss. Like he was there for the season, he finished 9th. You
Fair
know, he
enough.
had that dip of
Yeah,
one season.
get Jose
That
sacked.
is the one
But-
season that costs him a little bit. But when he was on form, there was not many better than him. But you see,
Alright,
I'm
but-
also an Arsenal fan who had Alexis Sanchez at that stage. That was probably
exactly.
So-
not
if you
like-
want-
I'm
if you-
so-
And then
If
he
you
got
want to go off
shit because he
positions then.
needed more money, and then went to them, and it was brilliant.
If you want to go off positions, then and look at the left mid alone. Perez takes it. Quality of player, Perez takes it.
Right.
He was the better player. If you don't want to compromise with me with Hazard, then I'm just going to have to go with the quality of player. Like and Perez takes it.
I'll take.
I was
Hazard.
giving you a fair deal.
I'll take Hazard on the left just for my Lumberg on the right because
Exactly.
I love Freddie so much.
I thought that was a fair deal. No, I really thought that was a fair deal. Right.
I
so
can't wait for me to present my moderated 11 because I've came up with a totally different one on the spot. So your front two is Henry and
Henry and
Drogba.
Drogba.
Yeah, we can agree on that.
okay. Now I'm gonna go a little bit off the cuff, I should say. Sorry. In goal, I do have Petr Cech, but this is where it gets good.
If you mention Sanya, I'm logging off. I'm logging off. Don't say his name. Don't say his name.
Is it
Don't
time
worry,
to go,
I'm-
Evan? Yeah. The only rest.
It's gone look.
Don't worry, I won't. Right back, I'm going with Ivanovic.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't get your knickers in a twist.
I'm waiting to just lose my shit. You're gonna say some absolute blasphemy now in a few minutes. I know you are.
Centre back is one you overlooked. So John Terry's in there. The other centre back, and I already said in the group chat how much I already had 11 pip, but I have made some changes. There is one other centre back that you guys have both overlooked, and he was quality for Chelsea.
Are you gonna say David Luiz?
Carvalho.
Oh,
Ricardo Carvalho, I'm adding him in it, to be honest. He was a fantastic centre back and he led that defence with John Terry. It was mutual. Left back, Lee Dixon, just kidding. It's
Good luck.
Just because of his commentary.
it is definitely Ashley Cole at left back.
Good old Lee Dixon.
In
fairness, in Lee Dixon's defence, one of the best own goals ever.
yes.
One of the best own goals ever.
Midfield 4 is where I'm going to catch you by a little bit surprised, boys. There's actually there is 2 Chelsea and there is 2 Arsenal in my midfield 4.
Right.
So right hand side, in fact, I'll go both. So both wingers. One wasn't a right winger, but I put him on there because even though I watched him once, he is one of the best players I've ever seen. Right hand side, I've got Mark Overmars ahead of Perez, even though Perez was absolutely outstanding. But to be fair, when you botch a penalty, you don't deserve.
Yeah.
It's just hard to. It's just hard to. Right hand side, Mark Overmars. Left hand side is Hazard, so you can both get hard on that one.
Oh.
Centre midfield is where I could get killed by one of you. One of you, and we'll see. Frank Lampard,
Fair.
Emmanuel Petit.
Fair enough.
Emmanuel Petit.
Yeah.
Hey,
he played for both of us.
he did.
And he was
good for both.
And he was quality in that France team too.
But are you counting that time internationally into that argument, or just Premier League?
I'm just pissing with you. My midfield is Lampard and Makelele.
I'm never gonna.
Fuck Vieira. No offense, Willem.
Hey, I didn't put him in.
Is there an argument for you for Fabregas?
None.
No argument whatsoever. Is this single player performance, or is this?
I'm going for purely best like overall what I think actually works best together. So I'm going to have
as a team then.
Yeah, Vieira.
To
be honest, Lampard and Vieira does work, so I could put Vieira in.
To be fair.
Yeah.
Actually, I will, because to be fair, Vieira gave me nightmares, and I still enjoyed him as a player. So yeah, midfield, fuck it. Overmars, Vieira, Lampard, and Hazard. I've given you 2 for 2. Up front, when it has to get.
Anelka. Just say Anelka. Go on. Annoy me, and just say Anelka.
You know what's funny? My front 2 is Henry and Anelka.
Oh, fucking knows. Jesus.
I'm just a little bit surprised.
Don't annoy me. Don't annoy me.
My front 2 is 100%.
Zola didn't get in there.
I couldn't.
Zola is a show. But like I said, Drogba is my childhood.
I love Zola. He's an absolute amazing player. He's one of my favorite players of all time. But I was never putting him ahead of Henry and obviously Drogba. I was saying Anelka to wind you up. It's Drogba. Drogba for Chelsea is the best big game player they ever had. If any Chelsea fan thinks Lampard is your best big game player of all time, you're deluded. In all respect, your best big game player is Drogba. The amount of finals that guy scored in sums up really. The only one who didn't score in was Moscow.
Love scoring against Arsenal.
But he couldn't score against Man United in Moscow. He did get sent off in that game though. But
that's what cost you it, because that made John Terry take the last penalty.
I'm really trying not to bite. I'm really trying.
you can try and bite all you want, but we all know you can't argue. So in that sense, my combined 11 is Checkmaster, Ivanovic, Carvalho, Terry, Cole. So pretty much a back 5 purely of Chelsea related, not the Arsenal perspective, it's just the Chelsea. Midfield 4 is Overmars, Vieira, Lampard, Hazard, 2 dicks, a big guy and a wee midget that thinks he's better than Scholes. And up front, Drogba and Henry, who is, I still say Van Nistelrooy is the best striker I've ever seen in the Premier League. As a pure goal scoring striker, Van Nistelrooy is the best for me.
And for the final question for you,
but
who's the manager?
Oh,
I can't do that.
Come on. Let's see it.
But Henry is the most complete player I've ever seen in the Premier League. That's all I'm saying.
Hear that
Van Nistelrooy is the best. Van Nistelrooy is the best striker, hands down, pure goal scoring striker. Van Nistelrooy is the best. Henry is the most complete player, with Rooney, because obviously Rooney for me is Man United. I just have to. But from your club specifically, it's Henry. Who's the manager?
You have to. A team is not complete without a manager.
There's only 2 managers to choose from. Of all due respect, I'm not choosing Conte. I'm not choosing Ancelotti, who was a machine. I'm not choosing Tuchel because he's barely been in the league.
It is. You're right. It is only 2 you can choose from.
It's only Wenger and Jose Mourinho.
That's agree. I agree with that. It's all about William now, but. Go on, say it. Go on.
My manager of the Chelsea Arsenal combined 11 is Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
Game
Sweet.
over.
It is, in all fairness, if I had to choose, in all fairness, this is just for what he actually did. If I had to choose one, I am choosing Arsene Wenger, to be honest. I am choosing Wenger.
I really thought you were going to say Jose.
As much as I absolutely adore and respect what
I
he
think
did,
I'm going to have to fight you on that one. No, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Reece.
Do what you like.
I think how Jose impacted compared to what Wenger has done. I think.
Just remember, Wenger turned Ian Wright into a striker that could actually play for England at top level performances, and this was a player who was at the time
the chosen one, though. The chosen one, the Messiah, Mr. Park the Boss himself.
The main reason I'm choosing Wenger for my team is I actually want my team to play proper football, not just win 1-0.
Hey.
Don't get me wrong. With my team, like both managers would be brilliant.
Arsenal would love to win 1-0 now in today's age, so
we did. We won like 1-0 2 games ago.
Well, exactly. So don't be slagging off 1-0s.
Hey, look, 1-0 to the Arsenal, Georgie Graham.
Yeah, 1-0 to the United against Wolves.
So
we done it the right way. We beat Wolves.
Right. So majority rules Wenger. I'll go with Wenger.
Majority rules Wenger in.
Yeah, the thing is,
for me, and I'm saying this now in terms of like the overall consensus, it is not a massive gap in terms of Wenger and Mourinho. It's not like say 60-40. It's literally 51% to 49%.
Yeah,
that's how marginally close it is for me.
The thing is,
Wenger and Jose.
I actually like Wenger. I actually really like Wenger as a manager and what he's done for Arsenal. Yeah, exactly. In terms of the football itself, I would rather Jose, but I'll give you Wenger. I'm okay with that. Like,
he's accepting pain. He knows it. He knows it inside out.
but like you said, Reece, it's 51-49, and
exactly. It was never one-sided. It is fair. It's been a fun debate as well, lads. Thank you very much for this evening. We've actually been going 2 hours 21 minutes. We have been bombing it for that long. See, that's the difference. We will go. We will bring non-stop energy. I'll smack you with a chair and I'll go, I don't give a shit about your clubs. Man United is the greatest club to ever exist. But anyway, that's that.
We're all still friends after it as well, so we're all good.
Exactly. We're all still friends. We are still friends. This is Dean's combined 11, which is Cech, Cole, Campbell, Ivanovic, Lamps, Vieira, Hazard, Freddie, Henry, Drogba.
And I didn't John Terry.
It has and John Terry, he's that by there. That is balance of an argument. Civil debate. They behaved themselves. I'm shocked.
Well, in fairness, there was a bit of a heat there near the start, but we'll overlook that.
Which was so worthwhile. But anyway, we have been running 2 hours, nearly 2 hours, 23 minutes. This has been the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. Can I just get you both just to give a shout out for where we can find you on social media before we wrap up tonight, lads?
Sure, I'll go first. William is gone. If you want to catch me over on Twitter, see if I can get it there now. Boom, there. Mainly on TikTok. Where you can catch me. I do all kind of skits and that, and I give away jerseys every now and then, retro jerseys and all that jazz. So if you want to check me out there, work away.
Mm-hmm. And William, where can we find you on socials?
Pretty much on Twitter at WillyChilibry. Haven't tweeted much, but I'll tweet a little bit more when I feel like it. But still follow me.
Wherever, he'll do it. And lastly, for me, you can find me here too. You can find me at Devil's Rising on Twitter. You can also find me at Reece_Lightning on Twitch, but you can also find me at the Weekly Armchairs Twitch account as well, which is following our Twitter page as well, where you'll find a link to that, which is sportsarmchair_. You can find us on there. Please give a like, share, and subscribe. Please hit the notifications bell as well, because we've got good content coming up. This has been London Lowdown. This is the debate: who is bigger, Chelsea or Arsenal?
Can we just hear who won the debate one more time? Can we just hear who won? Just one more time, can I?
In terms of arguments.
No, but who won the debate though? Who won?
It's still Arsenal.
Give over.
No,
the evidence is there. You've already said it.
The winner right now, to be honest, the winner right now, if you look at it overall, it's at the moment it's Chelsea. Until things change, it's Arsenal. Arsenal for a prolonged period, Chelsea for the right here and now are bigger on that respect, because right now they are taking things by storm, something Arsenal haven't done quite a while, and that's just a fair comment. But anyway, this has been London Lowdown. I'm Reece. That's Evan. That's Little Willie.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm just kidding. That's William. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a good evening, and we will see you all later.
A1.